1. The inner game of selling. Visualize this thing that you want. See it, feel it, believe in it. Make your mental blueprint, and begin to build. Robert Collier. Nothing happens until a sale takes place. Salespeople are some of the most important people in our society. Without sales, our entire society. You are important. Salespeople are the most vital people in any business. Without sales, the biggest and most sophisticated companies shut down. Sales are the spark. Plug in the engine of free enterprise. There is a direct relationship between the success of the sales community and the success of the entire country. The more vibrant the level of sales, the more successful and profitable is that industry or area. Salespeople pay for all the schools, hospitals, private and public, charities, libraries, parks, and all good things that are vital to our standard of living. Salespeople, through their sales and the profits and taxes created by successful companies, pay for government at all levels. For all welfare, unemployment insurance, social security, Medicare, and other benefits. Salespeople are essential to our way of life. Salespeople are the movers and shakers. President Calvin Coolidge once said, "The business of America is business." If you strip down the major newspapers, like the Wall Street Journal and Investors Business Daily, and the major business magazines, such as Forbes, Fortune, Business Week Incorporated, Business 2.0, Wired, and Fast Company, almost everything they write about has something to do with sales. All of our financial markets, including the prices of stocks, bonds, and commodities, as well as current interest rates, have to do with sales. As a professional salesperson, you are a mover and shaker in our society. The only question is, how well do you sell? For many years, sales was considered to be a second-rate occupation. Many people were embarrassed to tell others that they were in sales. There was a general bias against salespeople. Recently, the president of a Fortune 500 company told a journalist, "Around here, we consider sales to be the sleazy side of our business." The best companies. This attitude is changing quickly. Today, the very best companies have the very best salespeople. The second best companies have the second best salespeople. The third best companies are on their way out of business. The most successful organizations in the world are all superb selling organizations. Hundreds of universities now offer courses in professional selling, a great change from a few years ago. Many young people are coming out of college and immediately seeking positions in sales with large companies. More CEOs of Fortune 500 companies have come up through the ranks from sales than from any other part of the company. More CEOs of Fortune 500 companies have come up through the ranks from sales than from any other part of the company. The most powerful businesswoman in America today is Carly Fiorina, president and CEO of Hewlett-Packard. After obtaining a degree in medieval history from Stanford, she went to work at AT&T in sales and worked her way up. Pat Mulcahy, the president of Xerox, also worked her way up from sales. Many of the top companies in the world are headed by former salespeople. High income and job security. You can be proud to be a sales professional. Your ability to sell can give you a high income and lifelong job security. No matter how many changes take place in the economy, there will always be a need for top salespeople. Regardless of how many companies and industries become obsolete or just go out of business, good salespeople will always be in high demand. By becoming excellent in sales, you can accomplish any financial goal you set for yourself. 74% of self-made millionaires in America are entrepreneurs, people who start and build their own businesses. They get an idea for a product or service that no one else is offering, or which they feel they can offer better than the competition, and they start their own businesses. And among entrepreneurs, the single most important skill for success is the ability to sell. Every other skill can be hired away from someone else. But the ability to sell is the key factor determining a company's success or failure. 5% of self-made millionaires in America are salespeople who have worked for other companies all their lives. Salespeople today are some of the highest paid people in America, often earning more than doctors, lawyers, architects, and persons with extensive academic degrees. Sales is a gainful profession. In sales, there is no ceiling on your income. If you are properly trained, are skilled, and are selling the right product in the right market, there is no limit to the amount of money you can make. Selling is the only field in our society where you can start with little skill or training, come from any background, and be making a great living in a matter of 3 to 12 months. The 80-20th rule in selling. When I started selling, someone told me about the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20th rule. He said, the top 20% of salespeople make 80% of the money, and the bottom 80% only make 20% of the money. Wow. I was young, and this was a real eye-opener for me. I made a decision, right then, that I was going to be in the top 20%. Later I learned that this was one of the most momentous decisions and turning points of my life. Again, the top 20% of salespeople make 80% of the sales and 80% of the money. The bottom 80% of salespeople only make 20%. Your mission is to decide to join the top 20%, and then to learn how to get there. The Pareto principle also applies to the top 20% of salespeople. It says that the top 20% of the top 20%, which equals the top 4%, earn 80% of the money in the top 20% of salespeople. Wow. In every large sales force, 4 or 5 people out of 100 make as many sales and earn as much money as all the rest put together. Never worry about money. There is a very good reason to get into the top 20%, and then, later, into the top 4%, you will never have to worry about money again or fret about job security. You will never lose sleep over employment. The people in the top 20% or better are some of the happiest people in our society. On the other hand, the people in the bottom 80% are worried about money. One of the great tragedies of our society, the most affluent in human history, is that the majority of people worry about money most of the time. They get up in the morning thinking about their money problems. They think about how little money they have all day long. When they come home at night, they talk and often argue about money and how much everything costs. This is not a good way to live. Top people earn vastly more. The people in the top 20%, on average, earn 16 times the average income of the people in the bottom 80%. Those in the top 4% earn on average 16 times that of the folks in the bottom 20%. This is astonishing. A large American insurance company tested this 80-20th rule some years ago with their several thousand agents nationwide. They discovered that they had individual agents throughout the country who alone were selling and earning more than 20 to 30 other full-time trained, professional agents, even though they were all selling the same products to the same people, at the same prices out of the same offices, under the same competitive conditions. In the same year, I addressed 2 elite groups in 2 different industries. The people in these industries had all started off on the street, dialing for dollars out of the newspaper or the yellow pages. They all worked on straight commission, 1 sale at a time. But the average yearly income of the salespeople in these elite groups was $833,000 and $850,000. Some of the top people in these groups earn several $1 million a year on straight commission. Your goal must therefore be to get into the top 20%, and then the top 10%, the top 5%, the top 4%, and so on. The purpose of this book is to get you there. It is to take you from wherever you are today to wherever you want to go in the future. It is to make you one of the highest paid people in your industry. The winning edge. If the top 20% of salespeople in an industry earn 80% of the money, and the top 20% of companies in an industry earn 80% of the profits, what are the distinguishing factors of these individuals and organizations that make such an incredible difference possible? The conclusion is that they have developed the winning edge in their fields. This winning edge concept is one of the most important management and sales ideas of the 21st century. This principle says, small differences in ability can lead to enormous differences in results. The Difference between the top performers and the average or mediocre. Performers is not a huge difference in talent or ability. Often, it is just a few small things done consistently and well, over and over again. Win by a nose. For example, if a horse runs in a race and wins by a nose, it wins 10 times the prize money of the horse that loses by a nose. Here's the question: is the horse that wins by a nose 10 times faster than the horse that loses by a nose? Is it 10% faster? No. It is only a nose faster. But that translates into a 1000% difference in prize money. If a salesperson gets the sale in a competitive market, does it mean that he or she is 10 times better than the salesperson who lost the sale? Of course not. Sometimes it is only a small technicality that causes a customer to buy from one person rather than another. The fact is, the salesperson who wins the sale may be only a nose better than the one who loses it. Salespeople have a disadvantage over horses. There are no consolation prizes. If a horse comes in second or third, he still comes in the money. But in selling, it is a winner-take-all transaction. The salesperson who loses the sale gets nothing, no matter how many hours he or she has invested in developing the sale. Become a little bit better. In selling, you only have to be a little bit better and different in each of the key result areas of selling for it to accumulate into an extraordinary difference in income. A small increment of skill or ability, just 3 or 4%, can give you the winning edge. It can put you in the top 20%, and then the top 10%. In selling, you only have to be a little bit better and different in each of the key result areas of selling for it to accumulate into an extraordinary difference in income. Once you develop this small lead, like compound interest, it continues to grow. At first, you move slightly ahead of the crowd. As you use your additional skills, you get better and better at them. The better you become, the better results you get. You soon begin to pull ahead of the crowd by a larger and larger margin. In a few years, or even a few months, you can be earning 5 or 10 times as much as others who are still performing at average levels. Characteristics of top salespeople. There are certain characteristics that separate successful salespeople from average salespeople. These qualities have been identified over the years through interviews, surveys, and exhaustive research. We also know 2 things. First, no one is born with these qualities. Second, all of these qualities are learnable through practice. You can develop the characteristics that will virtually guarantee an extraordinary quality of life for yourself. It was once believed that people were successful because they came from the right families, had the right educations, developed the right contacts, got good grades in school, and other measurable factors. But then researchers discovered that there were people who started with none of these advantages, yet ended up at the top of their professions, starting from nothing. One of the best proofs of this is the number of new immigrants who arrive in this country with little money, no contacts, no school or university background, limited English skills, and every other conceivable disadvantage. But somehow, in a few years, they have overcome every single difficulty and have become leaders in their field. In my seminars, I continually meet men and women from all over the world who came to this country with nothing and who are now top salespeople, highly paid, and even self-made millionaires. In every case, the reasons have more to do with what is going on inside of them than with what is going on outside. Success is mental. It is what goes on inside the mind of the salesperson that makes all the difference. Some years ago, Harvard University did a study of 16,000 salespeople and found that the basic qualities that determine success or failure in selling were all mental. If a person had certain qualities, he or she would succeed, holding constant for everything else. If you develop these psychological qualities, they then form the foundation for your own personal sales success. If you want to know how tall a building is going to be, you look at how deep they dig the foundation for that building. The deeper the foundation, the taller the building. In the same way, the deeper your foundation of knowledge and skill, the greater the life that you will be able to build. Once you have built your foundation and have become absolutely excellent at selling, you can go anywhere and write your own ticket. And you can always build your foundation deeper. Use more of your potential. The average salesperson uses only a small percentage of his potential. For effectiveness in selling, it is estimated that the average person in general never uses more than about 10% of his potential. What this means is that each person has at least 90% or more potential left untapped. It is when you learn how to unlock this additional 90% of your own potential that you move yourself into the income categories of the highest earners. Follow the leaders. If your goal is to be in the top 10% of salespeople in your field, the first thing you do is find out who is already in the top 10%. Instead of following the followers, the average performers in your business, follow the leaders. Compare yourself to the top people. Remember, no one is better than you, and no one is smarter than you. If someone is doing better than you, it just means that he or she has discovered the cause and effect relationships in selling success before you have. British philosopher Bertrand Russell once said, "The very best proof that something can be done is that someone else has already done it." This means that if someone else is earning 5 or 10 times as much as you, this is evidence that you can earn the same amount if you simply learn how. Remember, everyone starts at the bottom and works his way up. If someone is doing better than you, find out how he got from the bottom to where he is today. Sometimes the very best way to find this out is to go and ask him. He will probably tell you. Top people are usually willing to help other people who want to succeed. Your master program. The most noteworthy breakthrough in psychology and human performance in the 20th century was the discovery of the self-concept. Your self-concept is the bundle of beliefs that you have about yourself. It is the way you see yourself and think about yourself in every area of your life. Your self-concept is the master program of your subconscious computer. It is like an operating system that determines everything you say, think, feel, and do. There is a direct relationship between your self-concept, on the one hand, and your performance and effectiveness, on the other. You always perform on the outside in the manner consistent with your self-concept. All change/improvement in your life begins when you alter and improve your self-concept, your inner programming. Not only do you have an overall self-concept that determines how you think and feel generally about yourself, your life, and other people, but you also have a series of mini self-concepts. These are little self-concepts that determine your effectiveness and performance in each area of your life, from riding a bicycle to making a speech. Your self-concept in selling. For example, in selling you have a self-concept with regard to yourself. And prospecting. If you have a high, positive self-concept, then prospecting is no problem for you. You get up in the morning eager to call on new people. You are competent and confident in the area of prospecting, so your sales pipeline is always full. If you have a poor self-concept with regard to prospecting, you will approach prospecting with fear and anxiety. You will avoid it wherever possible. The very idea of prospecting will make you tense and uneasy. You will do as little of it as possible and continually look for ways to avoid the activity. This is true in every other area of selling as well. What determines your income? Every salesperson already has a self-concept for the amount of money that he or she earns. Psychologists have found that you can never earn 10% more or less than your self-concept level of income. If you earn 10% more than you think you are entitled to, you will immediately engage in compensating behaviors to get rid of the money. If you have a great month and earn more than you had expected, you will have an irresistible urge to spend it on dinners, travel, clothes, or something else. It will burn a hole in your pocket. If you earn 10% or more below your self-concept level of income, you will engage in scrambling behaviors. You will start thinking about working longer, harder, smarter, better, in order to get your income back up into your comfort zone. Once you get into your comfort zone, you will relax and breathe a deep sigh of relief. Change your comfort zone. The only way you can increase your sales income is by expanding your comfort zone with regard to the amount you earn. Some people have a comfort zone of $50,000 a year. At that level, they relax and coast. Others have a comfort zone of $100,000 a year. That is the level that they strive toward, and they only relax when they hit that target. Here is the cosmic joke: there is usually very little difference in talent between the person who earns $50,000 per year and the one who earns $100,000 per year. The only difference is that one has settled at a lower level while the other has refused to settle for less than $100,000. Reset your financial thermostat. You can never earn more on the outside than you can on the inside. It is almost as if you have an income thermostat that determines your financial temperature. As you know, when a thermostat is set at a certain temperature, it will continually adjust the heating and cooling to keep the room at that temperature. In the same way, if you see yourself as a $50,000 a year person, you will continually engage in behaviors that keep your income at $50,000. You can never earn more on the outside than you can on the inside. It is almost as if you have an income thermostat that determines your financial temperature. In my seminars and in my work for corporations, I constantly run into this strange phenomenon. A salesperson will set a goal to earn $50,000 or $60,000 in the course of the year. But then he has a great year and hits the $50,000 mark by the end of September. Suddenly, for some reason, the sales dry up. He stops selling for the rest of the year. He cannot seem to get himself motivated, no matter how good the market is for his product. He spins his wheels until December 31st. Then, on January 1st, he is out of the gate like a horse at a horse race, and selling again. In every case, it is his self-concept. Sometimes people set a goal to earn a certain amount in a particular month. But if they have a great month and they earn their self-concept amount by the middle of the month, they stop selling for the next 2 weeks. They can hardly wait until the first of the month so they can psychologically get themselves back into selling. This is quite common. Break free of the past. Many people hold themselves back because they think that it is not right for them to earn more than their fathers. Time and time again, I have seen salespeople who plateau at a certain income level because that is the highest amount that their fathers ever earned. At an unconscious level they have decided that they do not earn more than that amount. And this becomes true for them. In an extreme case I saw, a young man moved from the farm into the city and got a job selling satellite dishes to farmers. This salesman came from a poor background and had never earned very much money. But the harvest was good that year, and the farmers were buying $5,000 satellite dishes with both hands. He began making money faster than he had ever dreamed in his life. But the experience of making so much money so quickly was so traumatic for him that after a couple of sales at the beginning of the week, he would actually go home, turn off all the lights in his small apartment, crawl under the covers in his bed, and lie there in the dark, with his heart pounding. He was so far out of his self-concept range of income that the stress was overwhelming him. Change your mind. To increase your income, you must achieve your financial goals in your mind before you can ever achieve them in your reality. Your aim should be to increase your self-concept level of income bit by bit until you think, see, and feel yourself as a higher income earner. Imagine yourself as if you were already the kind of person you want to be, earning the kind of money you want to earn. Look at other people who are earning more money than you and imagine that you are exactly like them. Suppose that you are already financially independent. Picture yourself having all the money you will ever need and only making sales calls because you enjoy meeting new people. This calm, confident, relaxed attitude, as if you were already a wealthy person, will help you perform at your very best, with much less tension. Be realistic. It is important to be realistic in developing your new self-concept, especially at the beginning. When I first learned about the power of the self-concept and how my self-concept controlled my income, I was earning about $30,000 a year. I immediately set a goal to earn $300,000 a year. But instead of this big goal motivating me, it actually served as a demotivator. As opposed to my mind going to work to find a way to earn that kind of money, my mind shut down, like turning off a light switch. What I learned later was that a goal that is vastly beyond anything you have ever accomplished before is ignored by your self-concept. Instead of motivating you, it discourages you. After 6 months of working toward this new, unrealistic goal, I finally realized my mistake and reset my goal for $50,000 per year. Almost immediately, I began making progress and had soon achieved my new goal. Your income level locks in. Here is another interesting point. A salesperson may start off at the bottom and work his way up over a period of several years, eventually earning more than $100,000 a year. But then the economy goes south. The industry retracts or shuts down, and he has to start over with a different company selling a different product. How much do you think he earns in the following year? Answer: more than $100,000. Why is this? Because he already has a self-concept as a $100,000 a year salesperson. No matter what happens on the outside, he will always find a way to earn $100,000 or more. You've read stories of senior executives with large corporations who are earning more than $1 million a year. For some reason, they lose their jobs. Then, a couple of months later, you read or hear about them and learn that they are working for another company and still earning more than $1 million a year. The fact is, once a person is $1 million a year person, no one would think of offering him or her less. It is all a matter of self-concept. The key result areas of selling. In selling, there are 7 key result areas, or CRAS. These CRAS are like the digits in a telephone number. You must dial each of them in sequence if you want to get through and make a sale. Your performance and effectiveness in each of these key result areas determine your overall success and the height of your income. These 7 key result areas are prospecting, building rapport, identifying needs, presenting, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting resales and referrals. Your self-concept in each of these 7 areas determines your performance in these areas, as well as your overall income level. Fortunately, everyone who is good in any one of these areas was once poor at it. Every professional in the top 10% started in the bottom 10%. The good news is that, if you can drive a car or operate a cell phone, you can become excellent in each of these 7 critical skills. It is simply a matter of learning and practice. If you have a poor self-concept with regard to any particular sales activity, you will avoid that activity whenever possible. But the only reason that you fear taking action in a particular skill area is because you are not good at it yet. You have not yet mastered the skill. If you are not good at something, you will make mistakes. You will feel awkward, angry and frustrated. It would be normal and natural for you to avoid that activity. Master the skill. The solution for your fears or reluctance in any key skill area in selling is for you to master that skill. Fortunately, there are more books, audio tapes, courses, and bits of advice available to you now to help you master each skill than you could consume in a lifetime. There is absolutely no reason for you to be held back from joining the top 10% simply because you are weak in a particular skill area. You can learn how to prospect effectively. You can be taught how to build high levels of rapport and trust with prospects. You can become skilled at how to ask questions and listen carefully to the answers. You can develop calmness and confidence in your interactions with others. You can learn anything you need to learn through practice and repetition. It is the same with each skill area. You can become an expert at accurately identifying the needs of the person you are talking to, and qualifying the prospect by asking more and better questions. You can become excellent in your sales presentation, growing so effective that people are tearing the product out of your hands even before you finish talking. You can learn how to answer the prospect's objections and concerns, responding so satisfactorily that the objections disappear and never come up again. You can learn the various methods included in this book for asking for the order and closing the sale at the appropriate time. Finally, you can learn how to create a golden chain of referrals from prospects and customers and how to sell more and more to people who have bought from you already. These are all learnable skills. Get better at what you do. The better you get in any area, the more positive your self-concept becomes in that area. The more confidence you have in your ability, the happier you feel when you are doing that part of your job, and the better results you will get. You can, in fact, like a sculptor, shape the entire quality of your sales personality. You never feel uneasy doing something that you are good at. You only feel anxious doing something that you think you are not particularly good at. Every single step that you take to improve in any area raises your self-confidence and increases your likelihood of success each time you try it. Face your fears. When you start selling for the first time, your heart is usually in your throat. It is pounding so loudly that you think people around you can hear it. Your stomach is often churning when you go into your first sales call. Psychologists say that you often act as if you were a child in fear of getting a spanking. Your self-concept is largely subjective. It is not based on reality. It is based solely on the ideas or thoughts that you have about yourself, especially the self-limiting opinions that hold most people back. Fear and self-doubt have always been the greatest enemies of human potential. Many people doubt their ability to excel in a particular area. And even though it is not true, it becomes true. As William James of Harvard said, belief creates the actual fact. If you believe that you are limited in some way, you will feel and act as if you are limited, and it will become true for you. Fear and self-doubt have always been the greatest enemies of human potential. Don't sell yourself short. Some people feel that they are terrible at closing sales. As long as you think that and say it to yourself, then you will be terrible at closing sales. The very idea of asking for the order will cause your heart to pound, your stomach to churn, your palms to sweat, and your mind to go blank. The fact is that closing is a normal and natural end of a sales conversation, as you will learn. Once you have mastered the art of closing sales, you will be able to ask for the order under any circumstances. Some people are convinced that they are terrible on the phone. Because of the common fear of rejection, they avoid calling people who may not be friendly and welcoming. They then say to themselves, I hate calling strangers. As long as you think and say this to yourself, every time you pick up the phone, you are going to stumble over your words. You will make mistakes and perform poorly. Challenge your self-limiting beliefs. The good news is that your self-limiting beliefs are usually based on erroneous information. They are not based on fact or reality. They are very often illusions in your own mind. Because they are unreal, you can get rid of them by replacing them with new, positive beliefs of confidence and competence in any area. Self-limiting beliefs develop early and easily. Sometimes you will try something, like skiing or skating, and do it poorly the first time. You will immediately conclude that you are no good at that sport. From then on, you will sabotage yourself by seeking out examples to validate your initial decision. Soon you will avoid that area of activity altogether. Louise Hay, the teacher and metaphysical writer, says that the core problem that each person has is the feeling of, I'm not good enough. We all have the feeling, deep down inside, that we are not as good as other folks. We feel that people who are doing better than us are actually better than us. If they are better than us, we unconsciously conclude, we must be worse than they are. If they are worth more, then we must be worth less. This false conclusion is the fundamental cause of most unhappiness in our society. The reactor core of your self-concept. The most important discovery of all in self-concept psychology is the central role of your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is best defined as how much you like yourself. How much you like yourself is the critical determining factor of your personality and of everything that happens to you. The degree to which you like yourself in any area is the key determinant of your performance and effectiveness in that area. It determines how much money you make, how you dress, how well you get along with other people, how much you sell, and the quality of your life. A person who really likes himself or herself has high self-esteem and therefore a positive self-concept. When you really like yourself in a particular role, you perform at your best in that role. The more you like yourself, the more you like other people. The more you like other people, the more they like you in return. The more you like your customers, the more your customers like you, and the more Willing they are to buy from you and to recommend you to their friends. High self-esteem people meet and marry other high self-esteem people. High self-esteem parents raise high self-esteem children. High self-esteem bosses build high self-esteem salespeople and employees. High self-esteem men and women set higher standards for themselves and practice higher levels of self-discipline. They have better friendships and get along better with the people they meet. They are generally happier and more fulfilled than people who don't like themselves very much. Self-esteem and sales performance. The more you like yourself in prospecting, building rapport, identifying needs, presenting your product or service, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting resales and referrals, the better you will be in each of these areas. A person who doesn't like himself or feels badly about himself in a particular area performs poorly in that area. Low self-esteem salespeople who don't like themselves, don't like other people very much either. As a result, they have a hard time building high-quality relationships with customers. For some reason, customers don't particularly like or trust them and prefer to buy from someone else. How much you like yourself is the key determinant of your success in sales and of your income. As a matter of fact, it determines how successful you are in every part of your life. The Great Discovery. Because of the power of your mind in determining your life and destiny, one of the greatest discoveries in history is that you become what you think about most of the time. Happy people think happy thoughts. Successful people think successful thoughts. Loving people think loving thoughts. Wealthy people think wealthy thoughts. They become what they think about most of the time. In addition, you become what you say to yourself most of the time. Successful people control their inner dialogues. They talk to themselves positively and confidently as they go through their days. Perhaps the most powerful words you can say to yourself to build your self-esteem are, "I like myself." Successful people control their inner dialogues. Each time you say, "I like myself," your self-esteem goes up. When you repeat the words, "I like myself," over and over throughout the day, you actually cause a chemical change in your brain. You release endorphins that give you a general feeling of confidence and well-being. The more you say, "I like myself," the more confident you feel and the more competently you perform. Be your own cheerleader. When I learned this affirmation many years ago, I used to repeat it to myself 10, 20, and even 50 times per day. I would say it in the morning and in the evening. I would say it as I drove along and before every sales presentation. I would keep repeating it until I drove the message deep into my subconscious mind, where it locked in and took on a power of its own. You can do the same thing. Every time you say, "I like myself," your overall self-concept improves. Your ability to perform and your level of effectiveness increase immediately. You do everything, including selling, better when you have a high level of self-generated self-esteem. The best time to make a sale. Here's a question for you: when is the best time to make a sale? Answer: right after making a sale. Why? Right after you make a sale, your self-esteem soars. You feel terrific about yourself as a salesperson. You like yourself more. You feel like a winner. When you walk into speak to the next prospect, feeling terrific about yourself, you will perform at your very best. There will be something about you that has a powerful effect on the customer. Your positive attitude and confident bearing will trigger a desire, at a subconscious level, to buy from you. Sometimes a salesperson will make a sale first thing in the morning, and then another, and then another and another and another, and sell more in a single day than he or she might have sold in a week or two. This spike in sales performance has nothing to do with the product, the market, or the customer. It happens because the seller's self-concept has gone up like the mercury in a thermometer on a hot day. As a result, he or she is performing at an exceptional level of effectiveness. Perform at your best. Immediately after you have made a sale, you like yourself more as a salesperson. You feel more confident, competent, and effective in selling. If you have been working on a difficult prospect and you have just closed a sale, get in your car and drive straight over to that tough customer and attempt to make the sale. You will be amazed at how many times this turns out to be an effective strategy. You will be more persuasive right after having made a sale than at any other time. It will not be the customer who has changed. It won't be the product, or service, or the price, the market, or the competition. The only thing that has changed is you. Nothing will stop you. One of the things we know in sales is that success breeds success. The more you sell, the better you become at selling. Your self-concept is a salesperson gets better and better. You finally reach the point in your own thinking where you know that nothing can stop you. If you continue to sell long enough, you will begin to have repeated success experiences. As you sell more and more, your self-concept improves to the point at which you become convinced that you are an excellent salesperson, and that you can make a great living in sales wherever you go. When you are feeling terrific about yourself, when you really like yourself, you know that you can do well in anything that you put your hand to. When you are selling well, your family and interpersonal relationships seem to be much better. You need less sleep. You have more energy. You have more enthusiasm. You feel more positive about yourself. The power of positive affirmations. The key to reaching this state of mind is to prepare yourself psychologically before every sales call. Stop and take a couple of seconds, then say to yourself, I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. Talking to yourself positively is like pumping yourself up. Just like pumping up a tire, you pump up your self-esteem. First thing in the morning when you get out of bed, start talking to yourself by saying, I like myself, and I love my work. I like myself, and I love my work. Whatever you say to yourself with feeling is accepted by your subconscious as an instruction, a command. Your subconscious mind will then give you the words, actions, and feelings consistent with the message that you have sent to it. Before going in to see a prospect, say to yourself, I am a great salesperson, and this is going to be a great call. Repeat that several times. Get yourself psychologically prepared for a good experience. When you then walk in to see the prospect, your subconscious will give you the words, the feelings, and the body language consistent with a person who is excellent at what he does. Talking to yourself positively makes you more confident. It causes you to relax and perform better. Your level of self-confidence and calmness has a strong impact on the person you are talking to. Positive self-talk leads to positive sales results. Obstacles to sales success. There are two major obstacles to making and closing any sale. They are both mental. They are the fear of failure and the fear of rejection. The fear of failure is the biggest single reason for failure in adult life. It is not failure itself, but the fear of failure, the prospect of failure, the anticipation of failure, that causes you to freeze up and perform at a lower level. The fear of failure is a deep subconscious fear that we all develop early in life, usually as the result of destructive criticism from one or both parents when we are children. If your parents criticized you continually when you were growing up, you will experience this deeply entrenched, unconscious fear of failure as an adult, at least until you learn to get rid of it. Why customers don't buy. The fear of failure in the mind of the customer or the prospect is the one greatest obstacle to buying. Every customer has made countless buying mistakes. He has purchased services that he later found were overpriced. He has bought products that broke down and that he could not get repaired. He has been sold things that he did not want, could not use, and could not afford. He has been burned so many times in sales experiences that he is like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. This fear of failure and disappointment is the number one reason why customers do not buy. So, one of the most important things you can do in the process of building trust and credibility is to reduce the customer's fear to the point where he has no hesitation about going ahead with your offer. The fear of rejection. The second major obstacle to selling and closing is the fear of rejection. This is the fear that the potential buyer might say no. The fear of rejection is triggered by the possibility of rudeness, disapproval, or criticism toward the salesperson by the prospect. The rule is that 80% of sales calls will end in a no, for 1,000 different reasons. This does not necessarily mean that there is anything wrong with the salesperson or the product or service being sold. People say no because they simply do not need it, do not want it, cannot use it, cannot afford it, or some other reason. If you are in sales and you fear rejection, you've picked the wrong way to make a living. If you are in sales and you fear rejection, you've picked the wrong way to make a living. The fact is that you are going to get a lot of rejections. As they say, it goes with the territory. Every experience of failure or rejection affects your self-esteem. It hurts your self-image. It makes you feel bad about yourself and triggers your worst fear, I'm not good enough. If it were not for the fear of rejection, we would all be terrific salespeople. We would all make twice as much, and maybe even 5 or 10 times as much. The salesperson's average day. In a study at Columbia University a few years ago, they found that the average salesperson works approximately 1.5 hours per day. They also found that, on the average, the first sales call is not made before 11 o'clock in the morning. The final sales call is usually made at about 3:30 in the afternoon, and the average salesperson quits working shortly after that. He goes back to the office or heads for home. Most people spend half the morning getting warmed up, drinking coffee, chatting with co-workers, reading the paper, shuffling their business cards, and surfing the internet. Then they go out and make a sales call just in time for lunch. The second sales call isn't made until about 1 o'clock or 2 p.m., after which the average salesperson begins winding down for the day. The total amount of time spent face-to-face with customers works out to about 90 minutes per day. That is the average. Half are above, half are below that average. The break on sales performance. Why is it that salespeople work so little and avoid getting face-to-face with customers so much? Simple, fear of rejection. The fear of rejection acts like a subconscious brake that holds people back and causes them to underperform. Of course, they always have a wonderful selection of excuses and rationalizations, but the real reason is fear of rejection. It is easy to prove this. Let us conduct an experiment. Imagine that your company has hired a marketing research firm to find customers for you. This firm has developed a sophisticated way of identifying ideal prospects. Using this system, they can give you a computer printout of 50 prospects that will be literally guaranteed, with 90% accuracy, to buy on a particular day. This list of hot, qualified prospects is so precise that it is only valid for 24 hours. Imagine that they call you in and give you this list of 50 top prospects for the following day. If you received a list of 50 highly qualified prospects, 90% of whom were guaranteed to buy if you could call on them within that one-day period, what time would you start in the morning? How much time would you take for coffee breaks or lunch during the day? How long would you spend chatting with your colleagues and reading the newspaper? If you were guaranteed a sale to virtually every single person you spoke to in a one-day period, you would probably start at the crack of dawn and keep on going until midnight if you possibly could. If you had no fear of rejection and you were guaranteed a high level of success, you would be calling on prospects every single waking moment. Rejection is not personal. All top salespeople have reached the point where they no longer fear rejection. They have built their self-esteem and self-concepts up such that if someone says no to them, it does not hurt them or put them off. It does not send them dejected back to their offices or cars. Here's the key to dealing with rejection. You must realize that rejection is not personal. It is not aimed at you. Rejection has nothing to do with you. Instead, it is like the rain or the sunshine. It just happens from day to day. When you can rise above yourself, stop taking yourself so seriously, and recognize that rejection simply goes with the territory, it will have no more fear for you. You will ignore it like water off a duck's back. You will expect it in the normal course of things, shrug your shoulders, and move on to the next prospect. There is a sales motto: some will, some won't, so what? Next. This should be your motto as well. Never give up. Perhaps the two most fundamental qualities for success in sales are boldness and persistence. It takes courage to get up each day and constantly face the fears of failure and rejection. It takes persistence to keep coming back, day after day, in spite of continued difficulties and disappointment. But the good news is that courage is a habit. Like a muscle, the more you practice courage, the stronger you become. Eventually, you reach the point at which you are virtually unafraid. After that, your career takes off like a rocket. 5 calls or closes. A full 80% of sales are never closed before the 5th meeting or closing attempt. It is after the 5th time that you ask the prospect to make a buying decision that you make most of your sales. These numbers turn out to be valid especially when you are trying to get your prospect to change from buying from one company to buying from your company. At least 8 out of 10 of all first purchases from a new supplier take place after the 5th call or visit. It seems that only about 10% of salespeople make more than 5 calls or attempts to close the sale. Half of all salespeople, or more, make only 1 call before they give up. When you are selling to a company that you want to switch from their existing supplier to you, remember that it usually takes about 5 visits to break down the prospect's natural skepticism and resistance. This does not mean that you have to spend 5 hours. It just means that you have to make 5 visits or more. You have to make an appointment, go and see the prospect, talk to him, tell him that you and your company are available to serve him. It is usually after the 5th visit that the prospect starts to become interested. Most people quit early. In a recent study, it was discovered that 48% of all sales calls end without the salesperson trying to close even once. The salesperson meets with the prospect, talks enthusiastically about his product or service, shows him the written information, and dazzles him with reasons to buy. Then, when the prospect has been completely overwhelmed with his charm, enthusiasm, and verbal agility, he takes a deep breath, sits back, and says, "Well, what do you think?" This almost automatically triggers the response, "Well, I'd like to think it over." The prospect says he wants to talk it over with his boss, wife, cousin, brother, uncle, sister, partner, board of directors, banker, accountant, and whoever else he can think of. "Could you call me back later?" Prospects don't think it over. One of the important secrets of success in sales is for you to understand and accept that people don't think it over. The minute you walk out of the prospect's office or home, he or she forgets that you ever lived. Have you ever gone back to see a prospect a week later, after you thought you had a fantastic sales conversation and he was thinking it over? Some salespeople have the vanity to believe that this prospect has gone home and has been thinking about their product or service 24 hours a day. They think he turns it over in his mind and talks about it with everyone he meets. He thinks about it and dreams about it, just waiting for you to come back. Then, when you visit the prospect a week or 2 later, you are amazed to find that he has forgotten your name, your product, and everything else. He doesn't remember who you are or what you sell. He has not been thinking about you or your product or service at all. People don't think things over with regard to products or sales. These words are a polite way of saying, "Goodbye forever." When they say to you, "Let me think it over," they are announcing to you that the interview is over and that you have lost your entire investment of time and energy in this prospect. Self-esteem eliminates fear. The reason I mention this direct relationship between courage and persistence on the one hand, and making multiple calls and sales success on the other, is this: there is a direct and inverse relationship between the fears of rejection and failure, and high self-esteem. The more you like yourself, the less you feel rejection and the less you fear failure. Imagine 2 escalators that go in different directions. One is the up escalator to high self-esteem, and the other is the down escalator to the fears of failure and rejection that hold you back. The more you like yourself and the higher your self-esteem, the faster you go up the escalator to courage and confidence. The more you think about failure or rejection, the more you ride the down escalator toward fears of failure and rejection. You are a good person. When a person says no to you, he is not saying no to you as a person. He is simply saying no to your offering or your presentation or your prices. The rejection is not personal. Once you know and understand that saying no is not personal, you stop worrying about it when people react to you or your product negatively. Here's the danger: if you take a no personally, you can start to think there is something wrong with you as an individual. Or you begin to believe that your product or your company is faulty. When you begin thinking like this, you can soon become discouraged. You will lose your enthusiasm for selling. As a result, you will start cutting back on prospecting. Soon you will only be working an hour and a half per day. Fear leads to excuses for not selling. As your fears increase, you will begin to rationalize and justify your non-selling behavior. You will make excuses and create all kinds of make work at the office. You will convince yourself that you have to read the newspaper so that you will be fully informed when you call on prospects. You have to shuffle your business cards and check the office to see if there have been any phone calls. You have all those people out there who are thinking it over. Maybe one of them has called and ordered something. You go into the office and plan your first hour or two around a couple of cups of coffee. After all, you have to wake yourself up in the morning so that you are sharp and alert when you go out to see customers. You chat with your co-workers and talk about business, especially how tough the business is. You kill most of the morning, then you realize that you had better go out and call on somebody, anybody. So you rush out and make a call just before it's time for lunch. An unproductive day. You wouldn't want to interrupt prospects when they are going for lunch. Therefore, you don't make any calls after 11:30 a.m. You go and have lunch with your friends, go shopping, get your car washed, or kill time. Time passes. You certainly don't want to call on people immediately after they get back from lunch. It might disturb their digestion. So you make up a few more excuses and rationalizations, and you don't make your next call until 2 o'clock or 3 p.m. Soon it's 3:30, then 4 o'clock, and of course, everybody's on their way home, aren't they? You don't want to go out and bother people late in the afternoon while they are preparing to wrap up for the day. Instead, you go back to the office to commiserate with the other salespeople who are gathering there, like survivors after an accident, and talk about what a tough day you've had. There is the story of the two salesmen who go back to the office at the end of the day. One says, "Boy, did I ever have a lot of good interviews today." The other one says, "Yeah, I didn't sell anything either." Can you identify with any of these behaviors? They are the favorite practices and excuses of salespeople in the bottom 20% of money earners in their fields. Increase traveling time. Another way that salespeople avoid the possibility of failure and rejection is by spreading out their sales calls geographically. Such a salesperson makes one call at one end of town and makes her second call in the afternoon at the other end of town. This gives her a nice solid hour of driving in between, which allows her to pretend that she is working, when in reality, she is just putting off getting face to face with a prospect. The fears of failure and rejection, which lower your self-esteem, quickly become the major obstacles to success in sales. Build your self-esteem, increase your income. Everything you do to raise your own self-esteem, including positive self-talk, affirmative visualization, personal motivation, enthusiasm, and individual training, improves your personality and increases your effectiveness in selling. As we said before, there is a direct relationship between your self-esteem and how much money you earn. The more you like yourself, the more sales you make and the higher your income will be. When you organize your life so that you become a perpetual self-esteem generating person, that alone will contribute more to your income than any other factor. The friendship factor. Customers today are spoiled. They are demanding. They are disloyal. They insist on being treated extremely well before they buy anything. More than anything else, customers will only buy from people they like. We call this the friendship factor. The friendship factor in selling simply says that a prospect will not buy from you until he is genuinely convinced that you are his friend and that you are acting in his best interests. For this reason, the first thing you do in a sales interview is create a bond, make a friend. Sales expert Heinz Goldman once wrote a book with a title that summarized this process perfectly: How to Win Customers. Your job as a sales professional is to win people over to your side by making it clear that you care about them and want the best for them. Build a bridge. You can only begin selling after you have convinced the prospect that you are his pal and that you want what is best for him. In fact, if you begin talking about your product or service before you have built a bridge of friendship to your prospect, the customer will lose all interest in buying from you. If you don't genuinely care about the customer, why should the customer care about you or what you are offering? Healthy personality. An excellent definition of a healthy personality is this: your personality is healthy to the degree to which you can get along with the greatest number of different types of people. You have an unhealthy or problem personality to the degree to which you cannot get along with most other people. People at the highest level of healthy personality have developed the ability to get along with the greatest variety of different people, especially in selling. The point is, the level of your self-esteem corresponds directly with the health of your personality. Again, the more you like yourself, the more you enjoy others and the more they like you. The more you like yourself, the easier it is for you to get along with a great variety of people. Making friends. The individual with high self-esteem is the one who has the greatest facility for making friends wherever he goes. Because he likes himself. He is naturally and spontaneously fond of others. When people feel that someone genuinely likes them, they are more open to listening to that person and to buying what he is selling. When people feel that someone genuinely likes them, they are more open to listening to that person and to buying what he is selling. Have you ever had an experience where you wanted to buy a product or service, but you didn't like the salesperson? In most cases you will walk away, even if the product and the price are ideal. Think of your very best customers today. The people you enjoy selling to and the people who enjoy buying from you are invariably the people that you like the most and who like you in return. Your self-esteem determines your income. Everything you do to improve your level of self-esteem increases and enhances the quality of your relationships with your customers. Self-esteem building actions trigger the friendship factor and make you a more successful salesperson. Your level of self-esteem in selling determines the amount of money that you earn. The very best salespeople have a natural capacity to make friends easily with prospective customers. Unfortunately, everything that happens to lower your self-esteem will lower your sales effectiveness as well. If you are tired or unwell for any reason, your effectiveness will decrease. If you have arguments with your boss or your spouse, this will lower your self-esteem, sometimes to the point at which you can't sell anything at all. The catalyst for sales success. The primary emotion in sales success is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm accounts for 50% or more of all sales ability. One of the very best definitions of a sale is a transfer of enthusiasm. When you transfer your enthusiasm for your product or service into the mind and heart of your prospect, like an electrical connection, the sale takes place. When your emotional commitment and belief in the goodness of what you are selling transfers into the mind of the prospect or customer, all hesitation to buy disappears. Once again, there is a direct link between how much you like yourself, your self-esteem, and your level of enthusiasm. The more you like yourself, the more enthusiastic you are. The more enthusiastic you are about your company and your product, the more enthusiastic the customer will become. Anything you do to raise your self-esteem will increase your ability to sell. Emotions are contagious. In the inner game of selling, it is essential that you understand that emotions are contagious. Each person is affected by the emotions of other people. When you are positive, confident, and enthusiastic about your goods or service, the prospect picks up these emotions from you and becomes positive and enthusiastic as well. Here's the key: you cannot give away something that you don't already have. You cannot convey enthusiasm if you don't have it yourself. This is why top salespeople love their merchandise or service and love the field of selling. Their enthusiasm is heartfelt and genuine. Prospects pick it up at an unconscious level and want to participate in Whatever is making them feel so good about themselves and their work. Because of their confidence and passion, prospects want to buy from them and recommend them to their friends. Failure is not an option. It is critical that you back your sales efforts with willpower and determination. Decide now that you will not give up. When you resolve in advance that you will never give up, you will be mentally prepared to bounce back from failure and rejection. When you continue to persist, no matter how difficult the situation, you will eventually succeed. You will ultimately make sales. You will finally win customers. Whenever you make a sale, you feel like a winner. Each time you close, your self-esteem goes up and your self-concept improves. Your self-image is reinforced. The more you like yourself, the better you will do in sales, and in every other part of your life. Your ability to perform and your level of effectiveness increase in your non-business activities. The reason so many people fail in sales is simply because they do not persist long enough and work hard enough to get those first few winning experiences. Once you begin to make sales and feel like a winner, you become even more motivated to sell even more of your product or service. But if you don't have those first successful experiences, you can easily lose heart and begin thinking that selling is not for you. Practice mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal is vital. The more you pre-program yourself to bounce back, the easier it is for you to overcome the failures and rejections that are part of the selling life. Talk to yourself positively. Say things like I can do it. I can do it. I can do it, whenever you feel fears of failure or rejection. Interestingly enough, when you make the decision that no matter what happens, you will never give up, your self-esteem increases immediately. You respect yourself more. Your self-confidence skyrockets. Even though you have not yet stepped out of your office, the very act of making the decision that you are going to succeed, that you can do it, that you will never quit, no matter what, improves your reputation with yourself. You see yourself in a more positive light. You feel more like a winner. You are more composed and self-assured. You become more capable of dealing with the ups and downs of daily selling life. The very act of resolving to persist until you succeed changes your personality and makes you a stronger and more powerful person. Action. Exercises. 1. Decide today to become a totally confident, high self-esteem salesperson. Say over and over to yourself, I like myself. 2. Visualize yourself continually as the very best in your business. The person you see is the person you will be. 3. Resolve in advance that, no matter what happens, you will never give up. Failure is not an option. 4. Refuse to take rejection personally, accept it as a normal and natural part of selling, very much like the weather. 5. Follow the leaders in your field, pattern yourself after the highest paid and most successful people. Find out what they are doing, and then do the same things until you get the same results. 6. Make a decision today to join the top 20% of people in your business. Remember that no one is smarter than you, and no one is better than you. Anything that anyone else has done, within reason, you can do as well. 7. Take action on every new idea that you think can help you in any way. Give it a try. The more things you try, the more likely it is that you will eventually triumph. We advance on our journey only when we face our goal, only when we are confident and believe we are going to win out. Oars and sweat Martin would come to a grinding halt. The only real creators of wealth in our society are businesses. Businesses produce all products and services. Businesses create all profits and wealth. Businesses pay all salaries and benefits. The health of the business 2. Set and achieve all your sales goals. If I've got correct goals, and I keep pursuing them the best way I know how, everything else falls into line. If I do the right thing, I know I'm going to succeed. Dan Deerdorf. Top salespeople are intensely goal-oriented. In every study, the quality of goal orientation seems to be associated with high levels of success and achievement. The highest paid salespeople know in advance how much they are going to earn each week, each month, each quarter, and each year. They know how many calls they will have to make to achieve a particular level of sales, and they have clear plans about what they are going to do with the money they earn. It is essential for your success that you decide exactly how much you intend to earn each year. If you are not absolutely clear about your earnings target, your sales activities will be unfocused. You will be like a person trying to shoot at a target in the fog. Even if you are the finest marksman in the world, you are not going to hit a target you can't see. You have to know exactly what you're aiming at. Your annual income goal. Begin with your annual income goal. How much do you intend to make in the next 12 months? What is the exact number? Write this number down. This becomes the target toward which you orient all of your activities throughout the year. You need a goal that is realistic, but challenging. Take your highest income year to date and increase that amount by 25 to 50%. Whatever amount you are comfortable with. Be sure to make your goal believable and achievable. Ridiculous goals do not motivate you, they demotivate you, because deep in your heart, you know that they are unattainable. As a result, you will quit at the first sign of adversity. Top salespeople in every field know exactly what they are going to earn each year and each part of each year. If you ask them, they can tell you within a dollar what they are aiming at every single day. Low-performing salespeople have no idea how much they are going to earn. They have to wait until the end of the year and get their tax forms to find out what happened. For them, every day, month, and year is a new financial adventure. They have no idea where they are going to end up. Put them in writing. To be effective, your goals must be in writing. Sometimes people are reluctant to write their goals down on paper. They say, "What if I don't make it?" You don't need to worry. The very act of writing your goals down increases your likelihood of achieving them by 1000% 10 times and usually far faster than you expected. Even if you don't hit your goal on schedule, it is still better for you to have a written goal than to have no goal at all. Your annual sales goal. The second part of goal setting is for you to ask yourself, how much am I going to have to sell this year to achieve my personal income goal? This should not be too difficult to calculate. Even if you work on a combination of base plus commission, you should be able to determine the exact sales volume required for you to earn the amount of money that you want. Monthly and weekly goals. Once you have decided your annual income and sales goals, break them down by month. How much will you have to earn and sell each month to achieve your annual goals? Once you have your annual sales and income goals and your monthly sales and income goals, break them down to weekly sales and income goals. How much will you have to sell each week in order to achieve your long-term goals? Daily sales goals. Finally, determine how much you have to sell each day to earn the amount you want to earn each day. Let us say that your annual income goal is $50,000. If you divide $50,000 by 12, you get approximately $4,200 per month. If you divide $50,000 by 50, the number of weeks that you work in an average year, it comes out to $1,000 per week. Now you have definite, specific targets to aim at. Set clear activity goals. The final step in setting sales goals is for you to determine the specific activities in which you must engage to achieve your desired sales level. How many calls will you have to make to get how many appointments with prospects? How many presentations and callbacks will you have to generate to achieve a specific level of sales? When you keep accurate records day by day and month by month, you will soon be able to predict with considerable accuracy exactly what you will have to do each day and each week to achieve your monthly and annual income goals. Let us assume that you will have to make 10 prospecting calls a day to get sufficient appointments to make enough sales to achieve your goals. Make it a game with yourself to make your 10 prospecting calls before noon each day. Set this as your daily activity target, and then discipline yourself to follow through on your plan. Get on the phone by 8 or 8:30 in the morning, or get out and cold call, if you have to. Whatever you do, force yourself to make your 10 calls before noon, every single day, until it becomes a habit. You control your sales life. The most important part of planning your activities is knowing that sales activities are controllable. You cannot decide or determine where a particular sale will come from. But you can control the inputs, the activities that you must engage in to achieve the sales in the first place. And by controlling your activities, you indirectly control your sales results. Some days and weeks will be better than others. Sometimes you will make a lot of sales, and sometimes you won't make any. Sometimes you will have dry periods and sales slumps. Other times you will sell 2 or 3 times as much as you projected. But the law of averages is at work. It is inexorable. If you just keep on making the necessary calls, you will eventually make your sales on schedule. Your results may amaze you. In many cases, when you start setting goals for the week, month, and year, and start working toward them systematically each day, you will hit those goals far faster than you expected. Many of my students set 1-year goals and hit them in 6 or 7 months. Some people have actually hit their sales goals for the entire year in as little as 3 months. Whenever you start setting clear, specific goals for every part of your sales life, you will be amazed at the results. Some of my seminar participants have worked for years selling a particular product in a specific market. But they had never set goals before. The first year after they began setting goals, their sales exploded. They suddenly started breaking sales records, even though they were still selling the same product out of the same office, to the same people at the same prices. Goal setting made the difference. Tap into your subconscious mind. This happens because the very act of writing a goal programs it into your subconscious mind. Once you have programmed a goal into your subconscious mind, it takes on a power of its own. Your subconscious mind works 24 hours per day, sleeping and waking, and starts guiding you rapidly toward the achievement of this goal. Once you have programmed a goal into your subconscious mind, it takes on a power of its own. Your subconscious alerts you to opportunities and possibilities around you. It brings you the right ideas for the right things to say, sometimes in the middle of a sales conversation. Once you program a goal into your subconscious mind, it continually motivates you into taking the actions necessary to achieve it. Sometimes, your subconscious mind will help you read your prospect's face, giving you a better sense of what to say. Everyone has experienced being in a sales presentation where he simply couldn't make a mistake or say the wrong word. The sales presentation went smoothly from beginning to end and concluded with a closed sale. Whenever this happens, it is because your mind is perfectly programmed, at a subconscious level, to enable you to perform at your best in the pursuit of your goals. The right words at the right time. When you feel excellent about yourself, your subconscious mind will give you exactly the right words at exactly the right time. It will make you sensitive to physical cues and verbal clues that will guide you to bring up a subject that you hadn't even thought about. But it will turn out, from the customer's point of view, to be exactly the right thing to say. You might mention that your company has an excellent reputation for customer service and after-sales follow-up. You later learn that this was the prospect's primary concern and was exactly what he needed to hear to buy from you. As previously stated, the average person uses only 10% of his potential. By programming your subconscious mind with clear goals, you gain access to the 90% of your potential that lies beneath the surface, deep in your subconscious mind. You program your subconscious and access it on a regular basis by deciding exactly how much you want to earn and precisely what activities you will have to undertake to earn that amount of money. Set personal and family goals. You also need personal and family goals. These are the reasons why you do what you do. These are the reasons that you get up in the morning and work all day, in the face of disappointments and difficulties. The greater clarity you have with regard to your family and personal goals, the more motivated you will be and the faster you will bounce back from temporary failure and rejection. Imagine that you could double your income in the next 2 or 3 years. If you did, what are some of the things you would change in your life? Make a list of all the things that you would be, have, or do if you were earning vastly more money than you are earning today. The longer this list, the greater your level of motivation and determination. Build a fire under your desire. If you have only one or two reasons for achieving your financial goals, you will be easily discouraged by setbacks and difficulties. If you have 10 or 15 reasons for being successful, you will be more motivated and determined. But if you have 50 or 100 reasons for increasing your sales and your income, you will become virtually unstoppable. When it comes to aggressively selling your product or service, who do you think will be more motivated? Will it be the person with 1 or 2 reasons to succeed, or the person with 50+ reasons? The fact is that the more reasons you have, the greater will be the intensity of your desire, like a roaring furnace. The more you want it, the more guaranteed it is that you will do whatever it takes to achieve it. The more reasons you give yourself, the more of your subconscious powers will be available to you in each selling situation. Set 100 goals. Here is an exercise for you. Get a spiral notebook and write down 100 goals that you would like to accomplish in the years ahead. Make a list of everything that you would like to have in your life and everything that you would like to do. Imagine that everything you write on this list is going to come to you at exactly the right time and in exactly the right way. You only have to write it down, as if submitting an order to the great cosmic storehouse of wealth, in order to get it. As you think of new things that you would like to have or accomplish, write them in this spiral notebook. You can never have too many goals. A friend of mine who was just starting in sales began this exercise by writing down more than 350 goals for himself for the years ahead. Every time he read the newspaper or watched television and saw something that he wanted, he wrote it in his spiral notebook. Every week, he read and reviewed his goals and added new ones. Within 1 year, in a competitive market, from a dead start, he became one of the most successful salespeople in his field. He eventually broke every sales record in his industry. He was written up in the newspapers as a sales superstar. He told me privately that writing and reviewing his goals was the primary reason for the motivation and enthusiasm that led to his success. He eventually came to feel that he was unstoppable. The number one reason for success. In my work with more than 500,000 salespeople throughout the United States and in 25 countries, I have found that the commitment to goal setting has been the number one reason for the success of the top people. All the highest paid sales professionals in every field are committed goal setters. They write and rewrite their goals every day. They continually add to their lists. They access and activate their subconscious and superconscious minds. They begin to attract into their lives people and circumstances that help them achieve their goals. Visualize your goals as realized. When used with goal setting, visualization is perhaps the most powerful skill that you can develop. There is no more powerful way to program your subconscious mind than to create a clear mental picture of the person you want to be and the goals you want to accomplish. The power of visualization is the most awesome power possessed by human beings. It is said that all improvement in your life begins with an improvement in your mental pictures. When you visualize, see yourself as calm, confident, and powerful. Envision yourself as successful and influential. Picture yourself as capable and competent in every part of selling. See yourself as absolutely excellent in prospecting, presenting, and closing sales. Before you go into a sales meeting, imagine the prospect responding to you in a positive, enthusiastic way. See him or her smiling and engaged in the sales conversation. Picture especially the prospect signing the sales order or writing out the check. You will be amazed at how often your visualization will turn into reality when you are with the customer. Say it and see it. Your subconscious mind is activated both by pictures and by strong affirmative statements. Each time you say something strongly to yourself, your subconscious mind accepts these words as a command. It then goes to work to bring that command into your reality. The very best all-purpose affirmation is I like myself. I like myself. I like myself. As I have already shown, each time you say I like myself, you raise your self-esteem, improve your overall self-concept, and perform more effectively in whatever you are doing, especially in sales. When you repeat an affirmation as a command to your subconscious Mind with confidence and enthusiasm, you activate all your mental powers. You increase your energy levels. You feel more positive and enthusiastic. You take complete control over your mind and emotions. Say to yourself, I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel terrific. Repeat this over and over again as you go through your day. Every time you repeat these words, you will feel happier and more confident. Then see yourself as if you felt this way, from the bottom to the top. At a seminar recently, a sales manager told me a story. She said her company had hired a young salesman with limited experience. They were not sure whether he would be successful, but they decided to give him a chance. Within 6 months, however, he was the top salesman in the entire country for that company. They sat him down and asked him why he felt he was doing so well, considering that he had never worked in this industry before. How was he outperforming and outselling professional salespeople who had been in the industry for 10 or 15 years? His secret? He was using affirmations and visualization every day. He said, every morning when I get into my car, I repeat to myself, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. I then say, I'm the best salesman in this company. I'm the best salesman in this industry. I'm the best salesman in the business. Before every sales call, I sit in my car and pump myself up by repeating these affirmations. I'm the best in this company. I'm the best in this industry. I'm the best in this country. Create a clear mental picture. This inspiring salesman went on to explain that while he was talking to himself positively, he would create a clear mental picture of himself selling and interacting with the customer exactly as if he was the top salesman in the nation. He imagined the prospect responding to him positively and confidently. He would relax, smile, and enjoy the feeling that he anticipates having when he gets face to face with a customer. When he went in to see the prospect, he radiated confidence. He was warm, friendly, and self-assured. He was courteous and respectful. He created instant rapport with everyone in the company, especially the customer. And customers bought from him in record numbers. Choose your words and pictures. Here is an interesting discovery. Everyone visualizes and talks to themselves continually as they go about their daily business. The difference between top salespeople and average salespeople is the content of their inner dialogue and their mental pictures. Top salespeople think and talk about their best-selling experiences in the past. They then imagine that they are going to repeat those excellent experiences in the upcoming sales call. Mediocre salespeople visualize and affirm as well. Unfortunately, they think about their most recent negative experiences. They think about wasted time and energy on people who didn't buy, customers who were rude or indifferent, and how disappointed they felt. In either case, by visualizing and affirming, the salesperson is setting himself up mentally to repeat the previous experience. When you create a positive, exciting picture of your very best previous sales experience, your subconscious mind projects that experience, like a picture on a screen, onto your next sales call. With this clear picture, your subconscious orchestrates your thoughts, feelings, and actions so that you do and say the same things that you did and said before to be so successful. You control your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is neutral. It is like clay. You can shape it any way you want. Your subconscious does not think or decide. It merely obeys your mental commands. When you take full control of your conscious mind and discipline yourself to think and talk about only the things you want, you send clear commands to your subconscious mind to give you the thoughts, words, and actions that will make you successful. Selling like Columbus. Many salespeople are what we call Columbus salespeople. When Columbus set off seeking a route to India, he didn't know where he was going. When he arrived in the Americas, he didn't know where he was. And when he got back to Spain, he didn't know where he had been. Many salespeople are like this. They set off in the morning with only a vague idea of where they are going. When they arrive at the customer's home or place of business, they say the first thing that falls out of their mouths. And when they arrive back at the office, they are not sure where they have been or what happened. Plan your calls in advance. Top salespeople are different. They think through their sales calls in advance. They go over what they are going to say mentally before they get face to face with the prospect. They practice mental rehearsal, a peak performance technique used by all top athletes, including sales athletes. They prepare mentally for the upcoming meeting. If you were an athlete going into competition, you would never think of arriving at the field or court and then walking straight into the competition. A professional athlete always warms up before going onto the field. By the same token, professional salespeople warm up as well, by mentally rehearsing so that they can perform at their very best when they get face to face with their customer. 2 ways to visualize. There are 2 ways that you can use visualization to mentally rehearse your upcoming sales performance. The first is direct, whereby you see the customer and the sales situation through your own eyes. You see the customer smiling and responding to you in a positive way. You see him or her agreeing with you and enjoying your company and the sales presentation. This is very effective. The second way you can use visualization is indirectly. With this method, you actually stand outside of yourself and see yourself and the customer in the sales situation, exactly as if you were a third party watching from the side. When you use both of these methods alternately, seeing yourself from both the inside and the outside, you dramatically improve the quality of your sales presentation and personal performance. See yourself as the best. Continually imagine yourself as the very best in your field. See yourself as one of the highest money earners in your business. Model yourself after the highest paid salespeople in your industry. Walk, talk, and treat others as if you were already a sales superstar. When you see someone else driving a new car or dressed in expensive clothes and wearing an expensive watch, say to yourself, "That's for me." You decide that whatever anyone else has accomplished, you can achieve as well. There are no limits. Action. Exercises. 1. Think big. Set an income goal for yourself for the next year that is 25 to 50% more than you have ever earned before. 2. Determine how much of your product or service you will have to sell over the next year to achieve your ideal income. 3. Break your income and sales goals down by month, week, and day. Determine the activities you will have to engage in each day to earn the money you have decided that you desire. 4. Plan every day in advance. Determine exactly the number of prospects you will have to call, the number of people you will have to see, and the number of sales you will have to make. 5. Set big, exciting goals for your family and your personal life. Make a list of 50 to 100 things that you want to buy and do with the extra money you are going to earn. 6. Make a written plan to achieve each of your goals, and work on your plans every day. 7. Determine the price you will have to pay, in terms of additional work and sacrifice, to achieve your most desired goals, and then begin paying that price. You too can determine what you want. You can decide on your major objectives, targets, aims and destiny. 3. Why people buy. You cannot teach a man anything, you can only help him discover it within himself. Galileo Galilei. There are many different reasons why someone may buy your product or service. What you must appreciate is that people buy for their reasons, not for yours. One of the biggest mistakes amateur salespeople make is asking people to buy for their own personal reasons, not for the reasons that actually motivate the customer to take action. One of the most significant parts of selling, the indispensable step upon which the whole sales process depends, is your ability to identify the needs of your prospect accurately. You must take whatever time is necessary and ask as many questions as possible to find out exactly why this particular prospect needs to buy your product or service at this time. If you fail to identify the prospect's needs accurately, the entire sales process will grind to a halt. The basic motivation. As a fundamental principle, every human action is aimed at an improvement of some kind. People buy products and services because they feel they will be better off as a result. They not only feel that they will be better off as a result of buying your product or service, but they also feel they will be better off than if they bought some other product or service, or if they bought nothing at all. Every customer has 3 choices with every selling offer. He can buy from you, buy from someone else, or buy nothing at all at this time. Your job is to get the customer to understand that he needs your product, enough to overcome any buying resistance that might derail the sale. In addition, the customer must be substantially better off with your product or service than he is without it. It cannot represent a small increment in value or benefit. The improvement in the prospect's work or life must be great enough to justify the amount of money you are charging, plus the amount of time and energy it will take to implement your solution. The greatest value. People value freedom above almost all other benefits of our society. When they have money available, they have a certain degree of freedom. They have choices and options. They can do a variety of different things. This desire for freedom is a major reason people hesitate to part with their money, for any reason. If a prospect buys from you, he gives up a certain amount of the flexibility and freedom that he had before giving you the money. If he buys a product from you that is unsatisfactory, he no longer has the money and is stuck with the product. Since every prospect has had this experience more than once, there is always a certain amount of buying resistance. The more, the better. Economists talk about units of satisfaction. They postulate that different actions can give a person different degrees of satisfaction. The prospect wants to get as many of these units of satisfaction as possible in every purchase decision. He wants to be better off physically, emotionally, and even spiritually. He wants to be satisfied in a variety of ways. The more diverse the ways that your product or service can please and satisfy your prospect, the easier it is for him to buy. Emotional values. Each person has different buying motivations. One of the most critical areas of sales psychology has to do with what are called psychic or emotional values. These are invisible, intangible values that attach to a product or service that make it appear and feel more valuable from the customer's perspective. For example, often salespeople will try to convince the customer to buy by assuring him that their product or service is being sold at the very best price available in the market. But frequently the prospect is more concerned about the name or reputation of the company selling the product. He would rather buy something that is better known, even if it costs more money. If this is what is most important to the prospect, when the salesperson emphasizes the lower cost of an unknown product or service, he is actually hurting his chances of making the sale. How others feel. People are sensitive to other people in their work or home environment. Whenever someone considers making a purchase, he or she thinks about how other people may respond to that purchase decision. No one wants to be criticized. If there is a chance that the prospect will be criticized by his boss or spouse for making a particular purchase, he will refrain from making that purchase altogether. Price and quality. Most salespeople parrot the words price and quality as if they were reasons to buy anything. In today's competitive market, it is assumed that your product or service is well priced and of a sufficiently high quality, or it wouldn't be available in the first place. Telling the prospect that he should buy your product because of your price and quality is very similar to saying that he should buy your product or service because you will deliver it to him. It is not a reason to buy at all. Identifying needs. Professional selling begins with needs analysis. You are not really in a position to sell until you have asked enough questions and listened closely enough to the answers. This enables you to understand the most intense need of the prospect that your product or service can satisfy. Once you have identified the customer's key needs and wants, you can then structure your presentation in such a way that you demonstrate overwhelmingly to the customer that he will have that need satisfied if he buys from you. Does versus is. Perhaps the chief distinction in needs analysis is the difference between what your product is and what your product does. Most salespeople are preoccupied with what their product is, how it is made, and the specific features that go into its design and production. As a result, these are the things they talk about when they are with a prospect. But the prospect does not care what your product is. He only cares about what your product or service will do for him. Every customer's favorite radio station is WeFM, What's in it for me? The prospect does not care what your product is. He only cares about what your product or service will do for him. Here is a simple way to determine what your product does for your customer. Imagine a pipeline. Into one end of the pipeline goes your product or service from sale to delivery to actual use by the customer. Out of the other end of the pipeline, dropping into a bucket, is what your product does to improve the life or work of the customer. Your job is to clearly identify what arrives in the customer's bucket as the result of his or her buying what you are selling. Emotional versus practical reasons. For example, some people sell life insurance by stressing its affordability relative to competitive policies, the size and reputation of the company, the ease of monthly payments, and the role that life insurance plays in financial planning. These are all important, but they are not the reason that a customer buys life insurance. He buys it chiefly for peace of mind. One of the top life insurance agents in the country told me that he has a very simple question that he uses when calling on new prospects. He asks, "Do you feel responsible for providing for your family if something were to happen to you?" If the prospect does not say yes to this question immediately, he spends no further time trying to convince him of the importance of life insurance. He has found that if a person does not feel highly responsible for his family, he will be reluctant to take out insurance to provide for them in case of an accident. By the same token, there are questions that you can ask to determine if the emotional need that your product satisfies is important enough to your customer for him to buy what you are selling. If you can convince him that this need will be satisfied, your choice of questions is often the key to identifying needs correctly. The two major motivations. The two major reasons that people buy or don't buy, respectively, are desire for gain and fear of loss. The desire for gain is obviously to be better off, for an improvement in conditions of some kind. Your first task is to help your prospect understand how much better his life or work would be with your product compared to the way it is now. The second motivation is fear of loss. As we've discussed earlier, prospects are afraid of making a buying mistake, of getting stuck with something they don't want, don't need, can't use, and can't afford. Since this has happened to them so many times in the past, they are cautious about allowing it to happen again. Here's an interesting discovery. Desire for gain has a motivational power of 1.0. But fear of loss has a negative motivational power of 2.5. In other words, the fear of loss is 2.5 times more powerful than the desire for gain. People are much more motivated to buy if they feel they are going to lose something by not buying, than they are in anticipation of the benefits they will enjoy if they do buy. Demonstrate both. Of course, the best sales presentation shows the prospect how much better off he will be if he buys and, simultaneously, how much worse off he will be if he neglects to buy. For example, in selling a car, you could show what a wonderful automobile it is, how beautiful it is, and how well it drives. If the prospect likes the car but is still hesitant, you could point out that this is the last one available for at least 2 months, or the last time this car will be sold at this low price. Often a prospect who was indecisive about buying will make an immediate purchase decision when confronted with the possibility that he won't be able to get it at its current price or get it at all. Are you believable? Believability is perhaps the single most crucial requirement in your sales presentation. No matter how convinced you are that your product or service will do what you say it will do, the customer will still be skeptical. Your job is to raise your credibility to the point at which the customer will have no reluctance in going ahead. Just imagine, if a prospect was absolutely convinced that he would be far better off as a result of purchasing your product, and was absolutely convinced that you would stand behind the product or service 100%, virtually nothing would stop him from buying. Increasing your credibility to this point is your main mission in the sales process. And this requires that you identify needs accurately. Appealing to customer needs. Each customer has certain basic human needs that motivate him or her to take action, including buying action. You must identify the most important needs that your product or service can satisfy for each particular customer to whom you speak. You must then convince him overwhelmingly that this particular need will be fulfilled by your product or service better than by anything else available in the market at this time or at this price. 1. Money. Everyone wants to have more money. This is a basic need. Money makes the world go around. Whenever you can link your product or service to making or saving money for the customer, you will have his total attention. 2. Security. Each person has a fundamental need for security. Most people feel that if they had enough money, they would be completely secure. So although money is hard and cold, the need for security is warm and personal. According to a University of Chicago study, people buy because of the way they anticipate feeling as a result of owning and using your product or service. It is this sense of emotional anticipation that you must trigger if you want to make a sale. It is not the features or benefits of your product as much as it is the feeling of pleasure or fulfillment that the customer imagines he or she will enjoy by buying from you. The need for security, whether financial, emotional or physical, for ourselves and for our families, is such a deep and powerful need that any appeal to greater security will arouse interest on the part of the prospect. Just as no one ever feels he has too much freedom, very few people ever feel that they have too much security. They always want more security products and services. Today there is a booming market for every kind of security service or device for net servers and computers. Home security systems are a billion-dollar industry. Various forms of insurance to provide security against accidents or unexpected reversals sell in the hundreds of billions of dollars each year. Anytime you can show a customer that he or she can be safer and more secure as a result of owning your product or service, you can create buying desire. 3. Being liked. Everyone wants to be liked by others. We need to feel accepted and respected by the people around us. We want to be admired by our friends, neighbors, and associates. Achieving these goals satisfies our deep need for belonging and self-worth. How does your product or service increase the amount that your prospect is liked and respected by others? 4. Status and prestige. One of the most powerful motivations for people is status or personal prestige. We want to feel and be perceived as important and valuable. We want people to look up to us and praise our possessions or accomplishments. When you pay up to $50 for a watch, you are buying a timepiece, something that tells you what time it is throughout the day. But once you pay more than $50 for a watch, you are buying jewelry. You are buying a personal decoration that tells other people in a subtle way that you are successful. Perhaps the deepest of all needs is the need to feel important, valued, worthwhile, both to ourselves and in the eyes of other people. When you can structure your product offering to enhance the status, respect, and prestige of another person, you can touch on this deep human need and can often trigger buying desire. Emotions distort evaluations. When you can appeal to a basic emotion, you can trigger buying desire so intense that the concern about price becomes secondary, or even irrelevant. For example, it has been demonstrated that some men who are anxious to please a particular woman for romantic reasons lose almost all ability to make rational spending decisions. This is why they purchase expensive jewelry, perfume, gifts, bouquets of flowers, and even costlier items when they are under the influence of the strong emotions of love or desire. 5. Health and fitness. Everyone wants to live a long time and enjoy great health. Economists predict that health products such as vitamin/mineral supplements and physical fitness equipment will be the next trillion-dollar industry. We all want to be healthier and to be thin and fit. We also want to have high levels of energy. And we want these same health benefits for our families. Consequently, we are attracted to products or services that will enable us to be thinner, more energetic, and in top form. If your product or service can enhance the physical quality of life of your prospect in a cost-effective way, people who are overtired, overweight, or have aches and pains will be extremely interested in talking to you. 6. Praise and recognition. An important need shared by one and all is to be recognized for our accomplishments. As Abraham Lincoln said, everybody likes a compliment. One of the definitions of self-esteem is the degree to which one feels praiseworthy. As a result, whenever someone receives praise and recognition for an accomplishment, large or small, that individual feels better and happier about him or herself. When you can position your product or service such that a person feels that he or she will achieve greater recognition or status by using it, you can create buying desire. Since the need for praise taps into that deepest emotional need of all, self-esteem, convincing your prospect that he will get additional recognition by using your product or service weakens his price resistance considerably. Convincing your prospect that he will get additional recognition by using your product or service weakens his price resistance considerably. 7. Power, influence, and popularity. There are many needs which you can demonstrate that your product or service will satisfy. People want power and influence and will buy products or services that will give them more of these things. People want to be popular and to be liked by other people. When your product or service offers to make a person more influential and popular, it arouses buying desire. 8. Leading the field. Another of our deepest needs/desires is to be considered up to date. We want to be seen as current, modern. We want to be leaders and trendsetters in our work and social group. Many people will buy your product or service simply because it is the newest product on the market. They want to be ahead of the pack. They want to be the first ones buying it and the first ones with it. In buyer segmentation, these are called early adapters. They represent 5 to 10% of the market. They will buy the product or service for no other reason than that it is new and different. When you tell an interested prospect, you will be the first person in your industry with this product, or you will be the first person in your neighborhood who has one of these, you create immediate buying desire among early adapters. 9. Love and companionship. Today there are millions of subscribers to internet dating services that match people with similar profiles. This is because people crave companionship and good relationships. An enormous number of people join clubs and associations to meet other people, especially those of the opposite sex. One of the primary motivators of social activities is the desire for love and companionship. When you can present your product or service as making the prospect more attractive and desirable as a companion, immediate buying desire is achievable. 10. Personal growth. One of the greatest of needs associated with the 21st century is for additional knowledge and skill. People want to feel competent. They want to learn new skills and be on top of their jobs. They want to get ahead more rapidly. They want to excel and move ahead of their competitors, both within their companies and in other areas of their lives. Many products appeal to the desire for greater self-understanding and self-actualization. That's because the needs for self-expression and personal fulfillment are profound. People want to feel that they are becoming all that they are capable of becoming. When you promote your product or service as something that can help people reach even greater heights of personal success and self-realization, you again generate a desire to purchase. 11. Personal transformation. Perhaps the most abstract need, and the need for which people will pay the most, is the desire for personal transformation. If a prospect feels that your product or service will take him to a new, higher level in his life or work and make him a different person in some way, there can be no limit to the amount he will spend. Not long ago I was talking to the vice president of a Midwestern manufacturing company. He is an avid golfer. He tries to play golf at least twice a week, and on vacation he plays 5 or 6 days a week. Sometimes 2 rounds per day. He told me, I would pay $50,000 cash for any golf pro who could show me how to permanently reduce my score by 2 strokes. This form of personal transformation, acquiring a new skill in an area important to him, was worth $50,000. Sometimes people will pay vast amounts of money for plastic surgery to improve their appearance, or to vacation at health spas where they will lose weight and become physically fitter. A personal transformation is purely emotional. Becoming more and better than you have ever been before is a common desire and an intense motivator of buying action. Whenever you can market your product or service as being capable of bringing about a permanent transformation of some kind, in work or personal life, you can usually make the sale. Buying decisions are emotional. All buying decisions are emotional. In fact, everything you do is 100% emotional. The rule is that people decide emotionally and then justify logically. You use logic to justify and rationalize your decision. Once you have made it, when you say that you are going to do something because it is the logical thing to do, all you are saying is that you have more emotion invested in that course of action than in another. People decide emotionally and then justify logically. Humans have a wide variety of emotions. But it has been discovered that the strongest emotion operating at any particular moment will determine how an individual decides and acts at that time. For example, a person may have a desire for the improvement that your product or service offers. But his fear of loss or of making a mistake can be more intense than his desire for gain. If this is the case, he will refrain from buying. The stronger emotion will always win out over the weaker emotion. Increase buying desire. The only way you can overcome the negative emotion of fear of loss that will block a sale is by increasing the positive emotion of desire for gain that will trigger that sale. Everything you do or say that increases the intensity of buying desire moves you closer to the sale. Simultaneously, everything you do that lowers the fear of making a mistake or loss moves you toward the sale as well. Reducing fear of loss. Marketing guru Jay Abraham has helped companies sell hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products by convincing them to offer unconditional guarantees of satisfaction on everything they sell. He is famous for recommending that you give a better than money back guarantee. In this type of offer, the customer is promised that not only will he get his money back if he is not satisfied, but he will also receive or be able to keep certain special bonuses and gifts that have considerable perceived value. In one of our businesses, we offer a complete 1-year personal and professional development program on entrepreneurship and financial success. The course runs over 52 weeks. We guarantee that participants will be delighted with the results, or they will get their money back. In addition, they will be allowed to keep more than $3,000 worth of books, tapes, and video training materials that accompany the course. This is a very powerful offer. Wanting to think it over. When a prospect says that he wants to think about it for a while before deciding, he is really saying one of two things about what you have offered him. First, he could be saying that he has no real desire to own and enjoy what you are selling. For some reason, you have not connected with him at such a level that he is convinced he will be better off with your product or service than he would be with the money that it would cost. The second reason that a person may hesitate and put off a buying decision is because he is not sufficiently persuaded that he will actually get what you are promising. He is saying that you have not given him enough emotional reasons for him to make a buying decision. His fear of loss or of error is still greater than the potential benefits from your offering. Focus on value. In the process of value selling, you put all your emphasis on repeating and explaining the values and benefits that the prospect will receive if he buys what you are selling. Instead of reducing the price or offering a special deal of some kind, you focus your efforts on building value. It is only when the customer feels that the value he receives is greatly in excess of the cost that he will have to pay that a buying decision takes place. Always focus on greater value rather than lower price. Selling to small businesses. Many people sell to small and medium-sized businesses. They deal with the entrepreneur who actually started and built his or her business. If these salespeople are not careful, they can easily slip into talking about the features and benefits of their products and services without taking the time to realize exactly what type of customer they are talking to. Entrepreneurs are successful because they focus most of their energies on sales and on satisfying customers. They have very little patience for detail. They consider bookwork, accounting, and finance as necessary evils, things that they have to do in the process of selling and delivering their products, therefore talk about sales and profits. If a salesperson visits with a business owner and tries to sell her computers and software that will improve her accounting department, her eyes glaze over. She loses interest immediately. Because she does not Associate accounting with profitability, she is the wrong person for you to be talking to. Entrepreneurs are interested in sales and cash flow. They are concerned with communicating with customers and delivering their products and services satisfactorily. They focus on the performance and reliability of what they sell. And they are attracted to revenues, profits, and growth. They are not interested in the internal details of their operations. To sell the very most of your products or services, you must focus your time, attention, and energy on finding out exactly what will cause this customer to buy. The more time you focus on clearly identifying the specific needs that you can satisfy for a customer, the easier it is for you to structure your presentation and make a sale. Selling to retail businesses. Business people who buy products for resale are only concerned about one thing: net profits. If you are selling to businesses who are buying your products or services to sell in the course of their business operations, they are still only concerned with one thing: net profits. They are not concerned with what the product is, they are only concerned with what the product does and how it affects their bottom line. The most important benefit that a product or service can offer a retail business customer is an increase in net profits. The most important benefit that a product or service can offer a retail business customer is an increase in net profits. Selling to larger businesses. Businesses only buy products that help them improve performance and productivity, cut costs and expenses, or boost cash flow and profits. You must be clear about the most advantageous results that your product or service can achieve for your business prospect in one or more of these areas. What you sell may help the company to cut costs in some area. It may increase or improve productivity. It might enhance the performance of either equipment or people. Perhaps your product helps the customer get greater sales results or increases buyer satisfaction. If you can convince a business prospect that what you are selling can make or save time or money in excess of what you are charging for your product, you can make a sale. This is your key job in selling to businesses. Emphasize the ultimate benefit. Once upon a time, a woman in one of my seminars, who was selling office automation systems, said to me, "I just can't seem to get appointments. I call them up and tell them that we do office automation consulting, and they always tell us that they are not interested." She told me that because of her company's experience, they can usually save their clients a good deal of money if they have a chance to examine their facilities and make recommendations. I asked her exactly how she went about approaching likely prospects. She said, "I telephone and I say, 'Hello, I'm Betty Dean, from Office Automation Services, and we'd like an opportunity to come in and show you how some of our products can increase your efficiency and the smoothness of your administration.' But they always say things like, 'No, thank you. I'm too busy, we don't have the time right now, we can't afford it, we don't have it in the budget,' and so on." Reword your approach. This sales professional was making the mistake of trying to sell on the phone, rather than just getting an appointment to sell. I suggested that she try prospecting a little differently. The next time you make an appointment, call up and ask to speak to the person in charge of administration. When you get through to him or her, say these words: "Hello, my name is Betty Dean, and I'm with ABC Company. We've developed a process that can save you 20 to 30% of your office administration costs. It would take me about 10 minutes to show you how it works, and you could decide for yourself if it is the sort of thing you are looking for." She told me later that this simple change in her approach enabled her to get all the appointments that she needed. Her sales doubled and tripled. She was soon making more money than she had ever earned before. Talk about what they want. The reason for this result, which thousands of salespeople enjoy once they understand this principle, is simple. People are not interested in office automation products, computers, servers, wireless communications, cell phones, or anything else. Business people are interested in making or saving money or time. They are interested in getting better results and increasing profit. There are only two ways that a business can increase its profits. It can increase its sales and revenues, holding costs constant, or it can decrease its costs, holding revenues constant. Whatever you are selling, you must describe it in terms of how it either increases revenues or cuts costs, or both. If you are talking to someone who is in charge of administration, he is interested in cutting costs. If you are talking to someone in marketing or sales, she is interested in increasing sales and the resulting income. If you speak to the person who owns the company, he wants to improve the bottom line. You must always talk about your product or service in terms of what the customer wants, not in terms of what you are selling. How does he get paid? Here is a key to selling products or services to people in business. Ask questions about what the person does and what results he is responsible for. What are the key performance indicators of his job? What does she get paid for? What results is he expected to achieve for the company? How is she appraised or evaluated by her superiors? These are key questions to ask and find out the answers for. As we said before, people always seek improvement in their conditions. They will only take action on an offer if they feel that they will be better off as a result. In business organizations, people will only approve the purchase of a product or service if they feel that it will improve their personal positions in the organization. For example, let us say that you are promoting a sales training system and are talking to the sales manager who makes the decisions in this area. The entire focus of your presentation should be on improved sales performance rather than on improved profitability. The sales manager is not rewarded on the basis of profitability but on the results of the salespeople. Focus on the benefits that this specific prospect will personally enjoy, rather than general benefits that have no effect on this prospect's results or rewards. Business versus personal benefit. Sales experts often differentiate between a business win and a personal win. A business win is what the company gets as a result of using your product or service. A personal win is how the individual will benefit personally when your product or service is installed and working successfully. People in business will not buy until they see that there will be measurable benefits in both areas. Take the time to identify how the prospect will be better off personally, in higher income, greater convenience, or even additional prestige and respect from other people in his company. These can be the key factors that trigger the buying decision. Uncovering basic needs. The key to conducting a basic needs analysis is to question skillfully and listen carefully. The very best salespeople dominate the listening and let the customer dominate the talking. The more you ask questions and listen patiently and attentively to the answers, the more the customer will open up and talk to you. People think about themselves most of the time. All day long, no matter what is going on, people are thinking about their own problems and concerns. What is most important to each person is on the top of his mind. When you ask questions and listen carefully, you trigger these thoughts and concerns. They then come up in the conversation. The Freudian slip. In psychoanalysis, this is called a Freudian slip. Psychologists have found that if you allow a person to talk about himself freely, eventually he will slip. He will blurt out what he is really thinking about at the moment. The job of the psychologist is to create the kind of environment where the patient feels comfortable expressing himself openly and honestly. In a way, you are a traveling sales psychologist. Your goal is also to create a comfortable environment with your personality. You ask good questions and then listen closely to the answers. You lean forward, nod, smile, and make no effort to interrupt. Use open-ended questions. The best questions to ask to open up a conversation and get more information from a prospect are called open-ended questions. These are questions that begin with a pronoun or adverb, words such as what, where, when, how, who, why, and which. These questions cannot be answered with a simple yes or no. They require a more expanded answer, which gives you a greater opportunity to understand the true needs of the prospect that can be satisfied by your product or service. There is a rule that telling is not selling. Only questioning is selling. It takes no creativity to talk about your product or service. It takes a good deal of thought, however, to phrase your information in the form of a Series of questions from the general to the particular. Today, people do not want to be sold. They may want to buy, but they don't want to feel that they are being sold. The moment a prospect feels that he is being pushed to make a buying decision, he shuts down and loses interest. The person who asks questions has control. As a rule, the person who asks questions has control. The individual who is answering the questions is controlled by the person who is asking them. Whenever you ask a question and listen attentively to the answer, you are controlling the directional flow of the sales conversation, which is as it should be. Whenever you are talking in response to a question from the prospect has taken control of the conversation. If a prospect asks you a question, rather than answering automatically, which most people do, pause, take a breath, and say, "That is a good question. May I ask you something first?" In other words, you acknowledge the question, but you then ask a question of your own and take back control of the conversation. When you do this a couple of times, it will become so natural and automatic that the prospect will never even know what happened. And you will be back in control. Position yourself properly. The very best salespeople today see themselves more as consultants and advisors to their customers than as salespeople. As a consultant, your job is to help the customer solve his problems with what you are selling. The very best sales consultants focus all of their energies on identifying the most pressing problem that the customer has that their products or services can solve. He then concentrates all of his efforts on convincing the prospect that he will definitely get the solution that he most wants. Position yourself as a friend rather than as a salesperson, as an advisor, rather than as someone who just wants to make a sale. See yourself more as a helper than anything else. Take the time to fully understand the prospect's needs, and then help the prospect to understand how and why your product or service will satisfy these needs better than anything else. Learn and teach. Position yourself as a teacher. When you ask questions, you learn the customer's needs. When you talk, you teach the customer how he can most benefit from what you are selling. When you approach every sales situation as a friend, an advisor, and a teacher, you will dramatically lower the stress involved in competitive selling. You will radically reduce the likelihood of failure or rejection. Both you and the prospect will feel more comfortable and relaxed. When you approach every sales situation as a friend, an advisor, and a teacher, you will dramatically lower the stress involved in competitive selling. Pause and listen. The sale takes place with the words, but the buying takes place in the silence. Many salespeople speak too loudly and too fast because they are nervous. They are uncomfortable with silence. They feel that they have to fill every single moment with some wise comment or observation on their product or service. But this is not the case. When you are asking questions and advising the prospect regarding your product or service, be sure to allow moments of silence in the conversation. Allow the customer to reflect on and digest what you are saying. Don't rush. Be calm and relaxed. Allow the sales process to unfold at its own speed, without pressure or urgency. This creates the very best mental state for the customer to make a buying decision. Present your idea as an improvement. People are funny in some respects. They want things to get better, and yet to stay the same. This is especially true in selling and in buying a new product. Very few people want something completely new. Somehow, if it is brand new and untried or untested in the market, it is too risky. It might not work. You might lose your money. This is why most customers are defined as late adapters. They wait until the product has proven itself before they start to buy it. The way to deal with this natural resistance when you are selling a new product is to describe it more as an improvement than as something new or different. Explain new features as advancements in the technology, as forward steps, as developments that your company has added to make it even better and more useful for your customer than before. Tell the truth. Customers want the simple truth about a product or service. They want honest information about how it can help them improve their lives and businesses. At the same time, they resist and resent any kind of high pressure. The more you relax and focus on the needs of the customer and helping him to satisfy those needs, the more relaxed both of you will be. The more you concentrate on explaining the simple truth about what your product can do for the customer, the easier it will be for the customer to buy. Customers are seeking honest advice to help them do their jobs more efficiently or live their lives better. The more you focus on how you can help your customer, the easier it is for you to sell and for the customer to buy. Quality is not enough. Many salespeople get stuck on the subject of quality. Their main argument for buying is that they are selling a quality product. But quality is never the primary reason for buying anything. Quality is a logical argument. People buy things emotionally, but quality is always based on logic. What is more important than quality is utility. When a person says, "My product is the highest quality machine in the business," it doesn't matter. The only thing that the prospect is interested in is, will it do the job for me? Will it do what I need done? Is it adequate for my purposes? You can say that a Rolls-Royce or a Mercedes is a high-quality automobile, but if all you need is a car to go back and forth to work, you don't need to buy one of them. Quality is not an argument. Quality and price comparisons. The only time you can use quality as an argument is when you are comparing your product at a higher price to another product at a lower price. You have to show the prospect that there are definite reasons why he should opt for higher quality rather than lower price. You have to prove that the customer will be much better off with your product because it is of higher quality than he might be with another product of lower quality, even if it is cheaper. If you are selling a snowmobile to an Alaskan, quality performance is a more important argument than price. If he drives the snowmobile out on the polar ice cap and the machine breaks down, he is going to freeze to death before he gets back. In this case, the cost of higher quality is more than justified by the benefits. If you are selling a vehicle to someone who is going to drive it across the Sahara, it is very important that it be a high-quality vehicle. If it breaks down in the Sahara, where there are no people and no water, the traveler will die before he gets help. Explain why your quality is important. If additional quality is not necessary to get the job done for the customer, then it is not an important benefit. In explaining quality features in your product or service, you must always explain how they directly benefit the customer. The customer must see the direct relationship between paying more for higher quality and getting more back as a result. All customers ask the same question in their minds, so what? Whatever you say to a prospect about your product or service, imagine that he is looking at you and saying, so what? What the customer really wants to know is, what's in it for me? What is the benefit to me of the feature that you are explaining? Why is this particular quality important to me? Make sure everything you say to a prospect about your product has a definite benefit in it for the customer, and make sure that the customer clearly understands this benefit. Whatever you say to a prospect about your product or service, imagine that he is looking at you and saying, so what? Suitability comes first. The product you sell must always be the most suitable for what the customer needs at the time, before quality enters into the equation. An example of suitability before quality is the popularity of Japanese automobiles. Everyone knows that they are well made and they last for several years. Because they sell at reasonable prices, they tend to be ideal and appropriate for a large number of drivers. They also happen to give good fuel economy. And in addition to this suitability factor, they are of good quality. But the quality always comes after the appropriateness and the utility have been demonstrated. This is why it is so important to ask questions and identify the needs of the customer in advance, before you begin explaining why your product or service is the ideal one for him at this time. Everything counts. In selling, one of the foremost principles of all is this: everything counts. Everything you do helps or hurts. It adds up or takes away. It moves you toward the successful conclusion of the sale, or it moves you away from it. Nothing is neutral. There is a halo effect in selling, and in all human relationships. Prospects assume that if one part of your presentation or work is of high quality, the rest of your product or service is probably of high quality. One good impression often enables you to create a halo of quality and professionalism. And everything counts. Your appearance counts a lot. In this respect, your personal appearance and grooming extend to the quality of your product itself. Most of the contact that your company will have with the customer will be you personally. For this reason, the way you appear and behave is a critical factor in the buying decision. It satisfies the prospect's need for assurance. A whopping 95% of the first impression that you make on a customer is determined by your clothes. This is because, in most cases, your clothes cover 95% of your body. When you are well dressed, properly groomed, shoes polished, and looking professional, the prospect unconsciously assumes that you are working for an excellent company, and you sell an exceptional product or service. Further, when you are punctual, polite, and fully prepared, you make a positive impression that spreads like a halo to everything you do and to the product or service you sell. On the other hand, if the salesperson is late, unprepared, and poorly organized, the customer immediately assumes that what you see is what you get. He or she takes for granted that the company is second-rate and that the product or service being offered is of poor quality. The best companies, the very best companies, have the best trained and best looking salespeople. Companies like IBM and Hewlett-Packard interview prospective salespeople several times to be sure, in advance, that these are the right people to represent them in a competitive marketplace. They take prospective salespeople out to dinner to see how they use their utensils and how they handle themselves in a social situation. They meet their families to measure the positive or negative dynamics between and among the spouses. They interview these prospective employees both individually and in groups. They know that an enormous portion of the buying decision is going to be determined by the person who is actually selling the product. Identify the basic and secondary needs. Be able to identify the basic and secondary needs that your product can satisfy, and then demonstrate this to the customer. You do this by asking questions skillfully and listening carefully to the answers. Sooner or later, the prospect will become interested by asking questions about what the product does and how it works. This becomes your selling opportunity. For example, in selling computers and software to businesses, amateur salespeople usually spend a good deal of time talking about all the different functions that their equipment will perform. But the customer does not care. He wants to know if the product will pay for itself, and how long it will take before it pays for itself. The customer wants to know how certain he can be that the product will pay for itself. He needs to know if this is an intelligent business decision or not. Put him in the spotlight. Instead of thinking about yourself, focus all of your attention on the customer. Since you can only think about one thing at a time, the more you focus on the customer rather than yourself, the more relaxed and confident you will become, and the more positive and animated he will become. Whenever you start to feel tense in a sales situation, immediately ask the customer a question about himself or his business, and listen to the answer. Imagine that you are in a darkened room with the customer. There is a single spotlight on a swivel above the customer's desk. This spotlight is voice activated. Whoever is speaking causes the spotlight to swivel around and focus exclusively on him. Who is supposed to be in the spotlight, you or the customer? Since the customer is the most important person, the spotlight should be on the customer most of the time. Whenever the customer is talking and replying to your questions, the spotlight is on him. Whenever you are talking about him and his needs, problems, or objectives and requirements, the spotlight stays on him. The instant you start talking about yourself, your product, your service, your company, or your life story, the spotlight swivels around and focuses on you. The customer is left sitting in the dark. The more the spotlight is on him, the greater the possibility that you will make a sale. Keep the spotlight on you and your company, and the likelihood that he will buy becomes less and less. Customers buy benefits and solutions. People don't buy products, they buy benefits. They buy solutions to their problems. They buy ways to satisfy their needs. So again, focus all of your attention on the customer. Ask questions. Such as, what are you doing now in this area? How is that working for you? What are your plans for the future in this area? If you could wave a magic wand and have the perfect situation in this area, how would it be different from what you are currently doing? What would you have to be convinced of to go ahead with our product, or any product? The person who asks questions has control. Reasons for buying, or not buying. In every sale, there is a key benefit that the prospect is seeking. This is the one thing that the prospect must be convinced of before he can buy. Your job is to uncover this key benefit and then to convince the customer that he will enjoy this benefit if he buys your product or service. At the same time, there is a key objection to every sale, the major reason that the customer will hesitate or decide not to buy. It is absolutely essential that you uncover this key objection and find a way to answer it to the customer's satisfaction. Focus on the 20%. We spoke about the 80-20th rule a bit earlier. In terms of buying your product or service, the 80-20th rule applies as well. Fully 80% of the buying decision will be concentrated on 20% of the benefits that you offer to the prospect. Sometimes the 90-10th rule is in effect. 90% of the sales decision can be based on 10% of the features and benefits of your product. Your job is to find out what they are. If you talk too much about features and benefits that are in the bottom 80% of concern to the prospect, you will actually hurt your chances of making a sale. Even if your product is the best in the world in the bottom 80% of reasons why the prospect should buy, they will not convince him to go ahead. But if you can focus all of your attention on the top 10 or 20% of benefits that your prospect will enjoy, and convince him overwhelmingly that he will get these benefits from your product or service better and faster than from any other choice, the sale becomes much easier. The hot button close. This brings us to one of the most powerful of all closing techniques. It is called the hot button close, and it is used over and over by the highest paid salespeople. It is quite simple. As the result of asking questions and listening carefully to the answers, you finally ascertain the hot button, the leading benefit that this customer seeks in your product or service. You then concentrate all your energy on convincing him overwhelmingly that he will get this key benefit. The success of the hot button close depends on your ability to discover the prospect's most important reason for buying. You then repeat it over and over again. Concentrate on selling that one main point. Do everything to convince a potential buyer that he will get that one benefit that is decisive for buying action. Bring the whole decision to hang on that one question. Press the hot button over and over. How do you uncover the hot button? Simply ask, especially when the prospect is hesitating or holding back, Mr. Prospect, if ever you were to buy this product, at any time in the future, what would cause you to do it? At that time. Then remain completely silent. When you make it a theoretical question, the prospect will often say, well, if ever I was to buy this product, I would have to be convinced of the hot button. Like a Freudian slip, it will often fall out of the prospect's mouth. You are then charged with convincing him that he will get that benefit immediately if he goes ahead with your offer. Fast, cheap market research. Here is a powerful exercise that can double your sales in a very short time. Make a list of your last 10 customers. Phone each of them and say these words, Mr. Customer, I just wanted to call you and tell you how much I appreciate your buying this product from us. How is everything going? Is there any way that we can help you? The customer may or may not ask you a question or have a problem with the product or service. If he does, though, promise to take care of it immediately after you get off the phone. Then ask, Mr. Customer, may I ask you a question? You could have purchased this product or service from another company, but you bought it from us. Could you tell me exactly why you decided to buy from us rather than from someone else? This is a powerful market research question. Remain perfectly silent. Let the customer think about it for a few seconds before he replies. Don't interrupt. The great discovery. Here is the remarkable discovery that you will make. If you call 10 previous customers, probably 80% of them will give you the same reason that they bought from you. Very often, you were completely unaware that this was the real reason for the purchase decision. Whatever the answer, write it down. From that day forward, whenever you meet with a new prospect, be sure to tell him, most of our best customers say that the reason they decided to buy from us was the hot button. Is this important to you? The flowering cherry tree. There is a story about a real estate agent who takes a couple to show them a house. The house is not in particularly great shape, but as they pull up in front of the house, the woman looks past the house, and in the backyard, there is a beautiful, flowering cherry tree. She immediately says, "Oh, Harry, look at that beautiful flowering cherry tree. There was a flowering cherry tree in my backyard when I was a little girl. I've always wanted to live in a house with a flowering cherry tree." They all get out of the car and go in to look at the house. But the salesperson has taken note of what the woman said. Harry looks at the house critically. The first thing he says is, "It looks like we're going to have to recarpet this house." The salesman says, "Yes, that's true. But from here, just look, you can see out through the dining room, and you are looking right at that beautiful, flowering cherry tree." The woman immediately looks out the back window at the flowering cherry tree and smiles. The salesman knows that the woman is the primary decision maker when it comes to buying a house. So he focuses on her. They go into the kitchen and Harry says, "This kitchen's a bit small. And the plumbing looks old." The salesman says, "Yes, that's true. But when you look through this window while you're preparing dinner, you can see that beautiful, flowering cherry tree in the backyard." Next they go upstairs to see the rest of the house. Harry says, "These bedrooms are too small, and besides, the wallpaper is old-fashioned, and the rooms all have to be repainted." The salesperson says, "Yes, but notice that from the master bedroom, you have that beautiful view of the flowering cherry tree." By the end of the walk through the house, the woman is so excited about the flowering cherry tree that she can't see anything else. The buying decision is made. They buy the house because the salesman has identified the hot button, the flowering cherry tree. In every product or service that you sell, there is a flowering cherry tree. In every product or service that you sell, there is a flowering cherry tree. If this is a real prospect for what you are selling, there is something in your product or service that the prospect really wants to enjoy. It is a benefit that the prospect really wants to have. Find out what it is by questioning and listening, and then assure the customer that he will definitely get that benefit if he buys from you. Action. Exercises. 1. Make a list of the needs that customers have that can be met by your product. Organize this list in order of importance to the customer. Build your prospecting and selling around these needs. 2. Conduct regular market research among your satisfied customers. Find out what benefit your product offered that caused them to buy from you rather than someone else. 3. Determine the most important benefit your business customers are seeking, and then develop a way to explain that benefit in every sales conversation. 4. Identify the most significant gains or losses that your prospects could experience from using or not using what you are selling. Emphasize them repeatedly. 5. Dress for success. Buy and read a book on proper business dress, and then follow it so that you look like a complete professional when you visit a customer. 6. Develop a series of open-ended questions that you can use to control the sales conversation and uncover the true needs of the prospect. Keep the light on him by asking and listening. 7. Position yourself as a friend, an advisor, and a teacher in every customer contact. Focus on helping and teaching rather than selling. In helping. 4. Creative selling. A man to carry on a successful business must have imagination. He must see things in a vision, a dream of the whole thing. Charles Schwab. Creativity is a natural characteristic of all top salespeople. Fortunately, your level of creativity is largely determined by your self-concept, by how you think and feel about yourself when it comes to creative activity. This means that you can increase your creativity with practice until it becomes an automatic and easy response to any goal you set for yourself. Creativity is something that you demonstrate and use all the time. When you are trying to avoid a traffic jam on your way to an appointment by taking alternate roads, side streets, and alleys, you are engaging in highly creative acts. When you are arranging a party or designing a sales presentation, you are acting creatively. If you are attempting to convince somebody of the goodness and value of your product, you are behaving creatively. Even getting dressed in the morning, when you match your clothing, ties, shirts, blouses, dresses, slacks, shoes together to make an overall impression, you are engaging in an act of creativity. Your beliefs become your reality. The sad fact is that most people do not think they are particularly creative. They associate creativity with writing great pieces of literature or painting great works of art. However, creativity can best be defined simply as improvement. When you improve anything by doing things differently, you are using your creativity, sometimes at a high level. Because of the central role of your self-concept, the more you believe yourself to be creative, the more you will generate creative ideas. In selling, you are essentially creating business where no business existed before. By the process of prospecting, building rapport, identifying needs, presenting solutions, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting resales and referrals, you are engaging in extraordinary complex creative acts that are the wellsprings of our free enterprise society. 3 ways to stimulate creativity. Creativity is stimulated by 3 key factors: 1. Clear goals, 2. Pressing problems, and 3. Focused questions. You must use all 3 as often as possible. The more intensely you desire to achieve a clear, specific goal, the more creative you will be in finding ways to accomplish it. The more determined you are to solve a pressing problem, the more resourceful you will be in coming up with different solutions. The more focused and specific the questions that you ask yourself, or that others ask you, the more innovative you will be in developing answers. You should use all 3 of these continually to keep your mind functioning at its highest level. Practice thinking creatively. In selling, there are several areas where you can increase your creativity with regular exercise and practice. The more creative you become in these areas, the more money you will make. The first area where creativity is important is in prospecting. Your success in prospecting largely determines your income, and your ability to find more and better prospects is only limited by your imagination. The second area where creativity is essential is in uncovering buying motives. You must be creative in questioning to find out exactly what the customer needs and what will cause this customer to buy. This is a real test of your intelligence and brain power. Prospects have automatic buying resistance to any sales approach. They don't want to tell you why they might buy your product. They know from experience that if you find out what they really want, you will probably be able to convince them that they will get it, and they will be too weak to resist your offering. Discover new product uses. Your creativity is essential in discovering new product uses and applications. You have to use your brain power to discover new ways to use your products and to create sales where no sales exist. Bringing together all the ingredients of a business transaction, including you, your company, the customer, the product or service, the price and terms, the delivery and installation, and everything else, is an extraordinarily complex act and requires creativity at a high level. Your ability to use your creativity to overcome buyer resistance and answer objections is essential to your success. Finally, your ability to close the sale and get the customer to take action is critical in determining how much you sell and how much you earn. Know what you're talking about. Creative selling begins with a thorough knowledge of your product or service. The better you know and understand what you are selling, the more creative you will become in selling it. The more knowledgeable you are about why and how your product is superior to that of the competition, the better you will be in explaining it to customers and in overcoming their buying resistance. Read, study, and memorize your product information. Find out what your competitors are selling, what they emphasize, and how much they charge. Become an expert in your market. Become excellent at prospecting. The fastest way to increase your income is simple. It is the key to success in selling. Spend more time with better prospects. This 6-word formula is the recipe for high income in every market. Spend more time with better prospects. This 6-word formula is the recipe for High income in every market. Creative prospecting is essential to your success. It begins with thorough planning and analysis, and starts with 3 questions. 1. What are the 5 to 10 most attractive features of your product? 2. What specific needs of your prospective customer does your product satisfy? And 3. What does your company offer that other companies do not offer? Its area of excellence. 1. What are the 5 to 10 most attractive features of your product? Do you know your product's most attractive features? List them in order of importance. Then go on to determine the following. Why should somebody buy your product at all? Why should somebody buy your product from your company? Why should someone buy your product from you? You must be able to answer these questions clearly in your own mind before you get face to face with a customer. 2. What specific needs of your prospective customer does your product satisfy? What benefits does it offer? In other words, what is in it for the customer to purchase your product rather than someone else's product, or no one's product? Write the most attractive features of your product down one side of a piece of paper. Then write the benefits that your customer will enjoy from each of these features next to them on the other side of the paper. Remember, customers do not buy features, they only buy benefits. They do not buy products or services, they buy solutions to their problems. They are not concerned with what goes into your product, they are only concerned about what comes out for them. 3. What does your company offer that other companies do not offer? What is your unique selling proposition? What is your company's or product's area of excellence? In what ways is your company, product, or service superior to anything else available in your market? The greater clarity you have with regard to these answers, the more creative you will be in finding better prospects and making more sales to those prospects. 4 keys to strategic selling. There are 4 keys to strategic selling that you must master if you want to join the top 10% of money earners in your field. These are specialization, differentiation, segmentation, and concentration. 1. Specialize. With specialization, you determine exactly what it is that your product is designed to do for your customer. You may specialize in a particular result or benefit. You can specialize in a particular customer or market. You can specialize in a particular geographic area. You can specialize in satisfying a particular need better than anyone else. But you must be a specialist rather than a generalist. Many salespeople have built their entire careers by specializing in a particular industry, a specific type of customer, or a distinct geographic area. How could this apply to you? To set yourself apart, differentiate. In differentiation, you determine what it is that makes your product superior to your competitors. What special benefits does your product offer to your customers that are not available anywhere else? In what areas are your products better than 90% of similar goods or services on the market? In many cases, if the product you are selling is available elsewhere, such as with real estate or life insurance, the special differentiator that you bring to the sales situation is your own unique personality. There is only one person like you in the whole world. Most sales are made on the basis of the feeling that the customer has about the salesperson, more than any other factor. 3. Sort out your market by segmentation. The third part of strategic selling is segmentation. Once you have determined your area of specialization, and what it is that differentiates your product from your competitors, your next goal is to determine exactly which customers can most benefit from what you do better than anyone else. Who are they? Where can you find more of this ideal type of person or organization for your product? Think of running an ad for perfect customers. How would you describe them? 4. Focus and concentrate. The fourth part of strategic selling is concentration. This is perhaps the most critical skill that you can develop for success in any area, especially selling. It is your ability to set clear priorities and then to concentrate single-mindedly on only those prospects who represent the very best potential as customers. In some cases, one prospect may be worth 100 times the value of another prospect. The basic rule in selling is to always fish for whales, not minnows. Remember, if you catch 1,000 minnows, All you have is a bucket full of minnows. But if you catch one whale, it can sink your entire ship. After a sales seminar in Tampa not long ago, a salesperson wrote to me and told me that she had begun applying these techniques. Immediately, within 1 week, she closed a sale that represented 58% of her quota for the entire year. She was absolutely astonished at what a difference it made when she concentrated all of her energies on her largest potential customer. What customers or markets could be capable of buying enormous quantities of what you sell? Where are they, and how can you approach them? Conduct intensive market analysis. You can use your creativity to identify your biggest and best sales opportunities. This requires the regular and repeated use of focused questions like these. Who exactly is your customer? Make a list of all the qualities and characteristics that your ideal customer would have. What would be his/her age, education, occupation, income level, experiences, attitude, or need? The greater clarity you have in identifying your ideal customer, the easier it will be for you to find more of these customers to talk to. Who buys your product or service right now? Apply the 80-20th rule. Who are the 20% of your customers who represent 80% of your business? What do they have in common? How could you find more customers just like the very best customers you serve today? Who will be your future customers? Markets are continually changing, and you must change as well. Project ahead 5 years. Based on current trends, who are likely to be your best customers at that time? What are the trends in your business and in your market? What changes are taking place that may force you to change the way you sell or the people to whom you sell? In what direction is your market moving? How are your customers changing? What new markets might there be for your product or service? Who else could benefit from your areas of specialization and differentiation that you have not yet reached? Why does your customer buy? What advantages or benefits does he perceive in purchasing your product or service? Of everything that you offer to a customer, what parts of your product or service does your customer most appreciate and compliment? What are the hot buttons that cause your customers to buy? You must know the answers to these questions. Who or what is your competitor? Who are your major and minor competitors? What benefits do your prospective customers see in buying from your competitors? How could you offset these perceived benefits? How could you position yourself in such a way that people would buy from you rather than from your competitors? This is often the key to breaking open the entire market. When companies position themselves properly against their competitors, their sales often increase by hundreds of percents. Apple versus Microsoft. Apple Computer was the first company to crack the market for the small personal or business computer. They came out of the gate with a user-friendly personal computer and immediately took the lead in the market, selling hundreds of thousands of Apple I's and Apple II's. Microsoft entered the market after Apple, determined to catch up and surpass Apple's sales volume. But instead of developing computers, Microsoft focused on software, on the operating systems, and encouraged other software developers to develop programs compatible with theirs. The strategies of the two companies were completely different. Apple was determined to keep all its operating codes and hardware proprietary, so that it could charge higher prices and make higher profits. At its peak, Apple was earning 49% net profit on sales, an incredible amount. A different strategy. Microsoft, under Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, decided to offset the competitive advantage of Apple's user-friendly software by opening up its codes to software developers worldwide. Simultaneously, with each new advance in technology, Microsoft lowered the price of its MS-DOS operating system. Rather than focusing on high profits per individual sale, Microsoft focused on volume sales with a lower profit per sale but a far greater number of sales. By the time the dust had settled, Microsoft controlled 90% of the global PC market. After becoming a runaway success story, Apple was surpassed in the market, and never caught up. By 2004, Apple's market share was down to 3%, even though its products are judged by many people to be technologically superior to those of Microsoft. What Or who is your competitor, and how are you going to position your products against them? Ignorance can be the problem. In some cases, your major competitor is not another company. It is ignorance. Customers simply do not know your product is available. It may be new. It may not be well known. It may not be well advertised. Sometimes, the greatest obstacle you have to overcome is unawareness of what your product can do for a customer. In strategic selling, you are always competing against someone or something. Whatever you are selling, there is an alternative available in your market. What you have to find out is what your prospective customers are considering, and then position yourself in such a way that your customers conclude that your offering is superior to anything else available. Selling in some respects is similar to warfare. Decisions in warfare are always made in consideration of what the enemy is doing or likely to do. Many of your most crucial decisions in selling will be determined by what your competitors are doing, or what they are likely to do. What is your competitive advantage? This is your area of differentiation that we discussed earlier. In what way do you have an advantage over your competitors? How and why are you superior? As Jack Welch of General Electric once said, if you don't have competitive advantage, don't compete. Your competitive advantage is invariably the most important reason that a customer would choose your product over that of your competitor. Fully understanding the nature of your competitive advantage is the key to developing an effective and creative sales presentation. You should be so clear about the competitive advantage of your product or service that someone could wake you up at 3 in the morning, shake you, and ask, why is your product better than anybody else's? And you could answer this question out of a sound sleep. Your area of superiority. Customers buy a particular product or service because they feel that it is superior in some way to anything else available. Sometimes it is lower price. Sometimes it is a particular feature or benefit. Sometimes it is because they like the salesperson better than the representative of another company. Sometimes the competitive advantage is that you are the first person who has explained to them how much they could improve their lives or work with your product. Whatever it is, the customer always chooses what he considers to be the very best available under the circumstances. Demonstrate to the customer that your product or service fits that description. Same old, same old. Not long ago, a young man came up to me at one of my seminars. He needed advice. He worked for one of 10 companies that sold electrical supplies to contractors in the local market. But all of the suppliers bought their products from the same manufacturers and sold them at very much the same prices to the same customers. On top of this, the market for electrical products was depressed at that time. He asked me, under these circumstances, how can I develop a unique selling feature or a competitive advantage? I explained to him that it was not really possible. Based on what he had told me, he was selling something that anyone could buy somewhere else at the same price and quality, and on the same terms. His products had no unique selling features. In a depressed market, there was less business for everyone, including himself. There was very little future in his industry at that time. Make your product special in some way. One of the most creative things you can do is offer a product or service that is special in some way. It offers benefits that customers are willing to pay for that are not available anywhere else. If what you are offering is a Me Too product, the only way you can sell more is by working longer and harder, by seeing more prospective customers, and by trusting in the law of averages. But there is no long-term future unless your product is unique and different in some way from any other product available. Put your best foot forward. In creative selling, you always lead with the most important benefit that your product can offer your customer in comparison with your competitors. This becomes the key factor in your advertising, prospecting, and sales activities. When you meet a prospect who really wants the special benefits that only your product can offer, it is easy to make the sale. Large companies spend an enormous amount of time and money to build a reputation for their unique selling propositions. When IBM was the biggest computer company in the world, it had an extraordinary reputation for customer service. The company invested more than $1 billion per year in giving its customers fast, dependable service. Whenever an IBM product broke down, for major customers with large computer installations, IBM would often fly in several specialists from different parts of the world, all within 24 hours, to get a computer system up and running again. IBM's reputation for quality service made it an industry leader worldwide. Interestingly, at no time did IBM ever have a better, faster, or cheaper product than its competitors. Other companies had superior products at lower prices with more features. IBM did not even attempt to lead the field with state-of-the-art equipment. They focused instead on their reputation for service and support. This competitive advantage enabled them to become the most successful company of its kind in the world. It takes your breath away. Some years ago, the distributors of Smirnoff vodka attempted to introduce Smirnoff to the market in the United States. They had little success. At that time, vodka was considered not only a foreign drink, but a Russian foreign drink. The Cold War was on, and Americans were not particularly favorable to any Russian products, especially a new form of liquor. The Smirnoff distributors spent an enormous amount of money attempting to position Smirnoff vodka as a superior choice to whiskey, scotch, gin, rum, and other liquors. But to no avail. Finally they identified the unique selling feature, USF, of Smirnoff. After drinking Smirnoff, no one could smell it on your breath. They instantly created an advertising campaign around this USF with 2 lines, Smirnoff. It takes your breath away, and Smirnoff. It leaves you breathless. In no time at all, Smirnoff became a $50 million product, and eventually a $500 million product. It broke the market open for vodka sales, which are now well in excess of $1 billion a year. By identifying the competitive advantage of the beverage, that people could drink at lunch without folks back at the office knowing, they were able to create a great marketing success. How could you describe or position your product in a similar way? What is your unique selling proposition? Who are your non-customers? Who are the people who could use your product or service, but buy neither from you nor your competitors? These are people who are not even in the market at all. In reality, the non-customers are the greatest untapped market for your products or services. If you can identify them and find a way to get through to them, you can often create sales where no sales exist and where there is little competition or price resistance. A huge untapped market. Often these people are the late adapters in the market, those who wait until a new product or service has been tested and proven by the majority of buyers before they risk buying. When a company finds a way to tap into this huge late adapter market of non-customers, it can often surpass all its competitors. 3 examples come quickly to mind: the fax machine, the personal computer, and the cell phone. In each case, only a few people were willing to take a risk on this new technology. In their earlier versions, they were often large, clumsy, and inefficient. The first cell phones often required a briefcase to carry them around. But once these 3 innovations had been accepted by business people and used in offices, the dam began to crack. Suddenly the non-customer entered the market by the millions. Today even children have computers, fax machines, and cell phones, which they are constantly upgrading with newer, better, faster, and cheaper versions. What were once early adapter markets have become multi-billion-dollar worldwide markets. How might you apply this to your product or service? The non-voter. Here is another example. The biggest non-customer in our society today is the person who does not vote. The non-voter, if he could be motivated to vote for a particular party, could determine the outcome of virtually every election in the country. 40% of qualified voters never go to the polls. They are the largest single voting bloc in the country. Why don't they buy? The people who are not now buying your product, or anyone else's product, are the greatest source of new customers. If you can find out why they are not buying at all, you can often break into a brand new market and sell more than you ever have before. Keep asking, with regard to non-customers, why don't they buy? What Is it in their perception that holds them back from buying the product or service you sell? What objection would have to be overcome in their minds to get them to come into the market? What could you do to dispel the ignorance that they have of how much they could benefit? How can you remove the fear that is holding them back? Very often, the simplest way to approach the non-customer market is to identify a specific benefit that the non-customer values and desires enough to want to own your product or service. Demonstrate to this prospect that he will definitely get the one benefit that would motivate him to buy, and then give an unconditional guarantee of satisfaction. By focusing on the key benefit and backing it up with strong guarantees, you can often break down the resistance that keeps your non-customer from buying in the first place. When do your customers buy? When is the best time to sell to your customer? Is it a specific time in the business cycle, or a specific season during the year? Do customers buy when business is growing, or when business is declining? Some services are most appropriate when businesses are in difficulty. Other services are bought more readily when businesses are growing rapidly. What season of the year do your customers buy the most? During what stage of the business cycle do they buy? Some products are most suitable for startup businesses. Others are better suited for growing businesses. And some work best for large companies that have stabilized or leveled off in the market. What triggers buying behavior? Some people are impulse buyers. They buy immediately when the product comes out on the market. These are the same people who see the new movie the first night it is shown. They try the new restaurant as soon as it opens. They embrace the new fashion trends as soon as they appear in the stores. Approximately 5 to 10% of customers are like this. They will try it without really knowing whether it is good or not. Many people only buy a product when it is clear from 2 to 4 years of history that the product is popular and well accepted. Many products do not begin to take off until they have been in the market for 4 or 5 years. It often takes this long for the mass market to gain sufficient confidence to begin buying the product in quantity. Think about personal computers. Many people only buy a product when it is clear from 2 to 4 years of history that the product is popular and well accepted. There are many buyers who only come into the market when it is already mature. The product or service is approaching the end of its life cycle. It is being replaced by similar products that are faster, better, and cheaper. The profits to be made at this stage of the life cycle are fairly small. Finally, there is the post-mature buyer who only buys a product just before it is taken off the market. What has to happen before your prospect will buy your product? Often, a person will only buy a product, or try out a company or service, when she has received a recommendation from someone she trusts. Sometimes the prospect will only buy when she has spoken to another satisfied customer, or the prospect has to get encouragement, reinforcement, or approval from another person before she feels comfortable enough to buy. Here are 2 good questions to ask the hesitant prospect. What would have to happen before you went ahead with this offer? What would you have to be convinced of to buy this product or service? The answers you get will often give you the key to the sale. Use testimonial letters. One of the most powerful of all sales tools is the testimonial letter. When you say that your product is excellent and a good choice for the prospect, he immediately discounts your words because, after all, you are a salesperson. But when someone else who has purchased your product says that it is good, the customer believes and accepts this assessment. Some years ago, when I was building one of my businesses, I was continually struggling with prospects because I was relatively new in the market. Yet everyone I had worked with was happy with my services. So, I took a solid week and visited each of my previous customers. I asked them if they would write me a nice letter telling me how much they liked my services and recommending them to other people. Most of them agreed immediately. I followed up continuously until I had a 3-ring binder full of testimonial letters in plastic page protectors. This changed my sales career. My winning strategy. From then on, when I would meet with a prospect, one of the first things that I would say is, before we begin, let me show you some letters that I am particularly proud of, from some of my customers. I would then hand my binder to the prospect and let him read through the letters. I found that people love to read testimonial letters. It is sort of like reading other people's mail. Later, I took a yellow highlighter and highlighted the very best sentences in each of the letters so that they jumped out when the prospect read the pages. It was amazing. Very often the prospect would look up from reading through the testimonial letters and say, "I'm sold. How soon can we get started?" My sales doubled, tripled, and quadrupled. In the first 2 months after I started using testimonial letters, I made more sales than I had in the previous year. Many people will write you a testimonial letter if you ask for it. But sometimes they are so busy that they don't get around to it. In this case, offer to write the letter yourself and ask them to type it onto their own letterhead and sign it. It is amazing how many customers will do this if you ask. Overcome objections with testimonials. If you get the same objection over and over, especially with regard to your high price or the fact that your company or product is new in the market, ask your satisfied customers to answer that objection in the text of their letter. Often you can write the letter for them with the answer to this objection. For example, let us say that your product is more expensive than that of your competitors, and your customers continually bring this up. You would ask for or write a testimonial letter that says something like this. "Dear Brian, I just wanted to write and tell you how happy we are with your product. When you first approached me, I was concerned about the high price. But since I have started using your product, the benefits and results I have achieved are far greater than the small difference in price I paid. Thank you for everything. Sincerely, a happy customer." That kind of a letter is worth its weight in gold. If you have half a dozen letters like that, you can double and triple your sales in a short time. Soon you will be selling to almost everyone you speak to. The best advertisement. The most powerful of all forms of advertising in our society is word of mouth. 85% of all sales take place only after someone has said that the product or service is good. All other advertising is an attempt to get people to try the product or service so that the process of word of mouth advertising can begin. 85% of all sales take place only after someone has said that the product or service is good. In the movie industry, studios invest 80% or more of their advertising budget in the week of the movie's release. Their goal is to get as many people into the theaters as quickly as possible, either before moviegoers find that the movie is not very good or to stimulate word-of-mouth advertising that will fill the theaters later. In 2004, both Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ and Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11 generated extraordinary word-of-mouth advertising, turning both movies into blockbusters that made fortunes for their producers. When was the last time that you decided to go to a restaurant by looking in the yellow pages? Instead, someone tells you that he has been there personally and enjoyed the experience. Only then do you try it for yourself. Word of mouth is everything. Be sure to ask. Your satisfied customers are your very best source of resales and referrals. If you take the time to ask them why they bought from you, rather than from someone else, they will tell you. Once you know why your customers buy from you, you can then repeat these same reasons. When you are meeting with a new prospect, call or visit a satisfied customer, someone you like and who likes you, and tell him that your company is conducting some market research. We are talking to some of our most valued customers to find out how we can serve them better in the future. Would you answer a few questions for me? You then ask him questions such as the following. Why did you decide to buy from us rather than from someone else? What specific value or benefit do you feel that you get from our product? How could we improve it in the future for you? What kind of customer do you feel could most benefit from our product? Is there anything special that our product or service does that you did not expect when you bought it? Never be afraid to ask. If you ask your happy customers enough questions, and listen carefully enough to the answers, they will tell you everything you need to know to sell more of your products to more people, faster and more easily than ever before. Practice mindstorming regularly. This is one of the most powerful ways to stimulate your creativity, alert you to new opportunities, and accelerate your success in your sales career. It is called the 20 idea method. When you begin using this method regularly and applying some of the ideas that you generate, you will increase twofold or more your income in the months ahead. Here's how it works. Take a sheet of paper and write your biggest goal, or your most pressing problem at the top of the page in the form of a question. For example, you could write, how can I double my income in the next 12 months? You can even be more specific, how can I increase my income from $50,000 to $100,000 per year over the next 12 months? Be clear and concrete. The more clear and specific the question, the easier it is for your mind to generate multiple answers to it. You use this mind-storming method primarily on questions for which you are seeking concrete, tangible answers. For example, you would not write, how can I be happier? This question is so soft and vague that your mind cannot focus on it and generate specific, workable answers. Once you have written out your question, you then discipline yourself to write out 20 answers to that question. You write them in the personal, positive, present tense. For example, instead of writing, make more calls, you would write, I make 5 extra calls each day. The more specific your answers, the more ideas they will stimulate. Write 20 answers minimum. Write a minimum of 20 answers to the question. You can write more than 20 answers if you like, but you must discipline yourself to keep writing until you have at least 20 answers. For some reason, the number 20 has a magical effect. Very often, the 20th answer is the breakthrough idea that changes your career. Once you have put down 20 answers, go back over your list of answers and select at least one idea that you will implement immediately. Do it now, this very minute. Don't delay. This is very important. When you generate these answers and then take action on at least one of them, you keep the tap open for creative ideas all day long. As you move through your day, you will constantly have ideas and insights on how you can be more effective and get more done. Your mind will sparkle like lights on a Christmas tree. You will be more alert and aware. You will come up with solutions not only to your own problems, but to the problems of others, quickly and efficiently. The key to wealth. Earl Nightingale, in writing about this idea, said that more people have become wealthy using this 20-idea method than any other method of creative thinking ever discovered. In my own experience, and in the experience of thousands of my students, this 20-idea exercise is life transforming. Once you begin using it, you will start applying it to every problem or goal you ever have. You can use it to outline any project, large or small. You can use it to build a house, or to build a career. The results you get will be absolutely amazing. Cumulative results. If you were to pick a different problem or goal, or even the same problem or goal, and conduct this mind-storming exercise each morning, you would generate a minimum of 20 ideas per day. If you did this exercise 5 days a week, you would generate 100 ideas per week. If you did this exercise 5 days per week for 50 weeks a year, you would generate 5,000 ideas each year to help you be more successful. If you then selected one idea each day and took action on it immediately, that would come to 250 ideas per year that you would be implementing in your life to help you move faster toward your personal and career goals. The big question: if you were to implement 250 new ideas each year to be more successful, do you think this would have any impact on your life? Would your income increase? Do you think that one self-improvement idea per day might change your life so dramatically that it would be unrecognizable a year from now? Marshall McLuhan once wrote that all you need is an idea that is 10% new to make $1 million. It does not have to be the discovery of relativity or a major scientific breakthrough. It only has to be a small improvement on what is currently being done in some field, and which gives you a competitive advantage. One small competitive advantage is enough to separate you from everyone else and put you on the fast track to success. When you begin using this idea and developing 20 ideas each day, you will be astonished. You will become one of the most creative salespeople in your field. As a result, you will become one of the highest paid people in your profession. Once you develop the regular habit of thinking creatively and applying your creative ideas, there will be no product that you cannot sell successfully and no goal that you cannot achieve. Action. Exercises. 1. You are a genius. Resolve today that you will use your inborn creativity to solve any problem, overcome any obstacle, and achieve any goal you can set for yourself. 2. Write your most important goal at the top of a page in the form of a question. Write out 20 answers to that question and then take action on at least one of them. Do this every day. 3. Identify your areas of excellence and superiority in your product or service. What makes what you sell better than any competitive alternative? 4. Determine why your customers buy from you rather than from someone else. Which prospects can most benefit from what you do best? 5. Where are your very best concentrations of prospective customers? Decide how you are going to spend more time with them. 6. Differentiate your products or services in a meaningful way. Find out why people buy your product, and then show them why your product is the best choice, all things considered. 7. Get written testimonial letters from your satisfied customers. Highlight the best sentences, and then place them in plastic pages in a 3-ring binder. Show these letters to every prospect. Far and away, the best prize that life